Chapter 762. Ji Tianqing exchanged some pleasantries with Ling Yichen and the others before he prepared to leave. However, the three princes stopped Ji Tianqing with a smile. "Prince Tianqing, please wait. Senior brother Ji, we have a presumptuous request. We hope you can help us with it." As they spoke, the three princes looked at Ling Yichen and signaled him with their eyes. Ling Yichen was a little embarrassed. He revealed a hesitant look as if he wanted to say something but stopped himself. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing realized that the four of them must have something to ask. He looked at Ling Yichen and asked calmly, "Senior brother Ling, what's the matter?" Ling Yichen looked around. Seeing that there was no one else, he lowered his voice and said, "Junior brother Ji, we came to Cloud's Soul Palace with a purpose. We heard that Miracle Dr. Bailey is going to choose a last disciple at the birthday banquet to teach his lifelong medical skills, so we want to ask for your help." Ji Tianqing suddenly understood. Although Ling Yichen, Yi Yifan, and the other three were the princes of the imperial residence, they were the top prodigies of the human race. However, the imperial residence only taught martial cultivation. They would not specifically teach alchemy, formation, or weapon refinement. In the imperial residence's motto, only martial cultivation was the right path. The other alchemy, formations, talismans, and weapons were all unorthodox. Even the god masters of the imperial residence would often warn the princes not to put their thoughts on unorthodox methods, which would affect their martial cultivation. Therefore, if the princes wanted to cultivate the profound unorthodox methods, they could only think of their own ways. Although the princes' identities were honorable, Miracle Dr. Bailey's medical skills were unparalleled in the continent. If they could become Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple, it would be a great honor for the princes. Ji Tianqing pointed at the countless young talents in the square and said to Ling Yichen, "Senior brother Ling, you're not the only one who wants to be Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. I'm afraid all the young talents here today have the same idea. You can just tell Patriarch Yun or Miracle Dr. Bailey your wishes. What's the use of looking for me? With your status as princes, you will definitely have a better chance than those young geniuses." Ling Yichen gently shook his head and revealed a bitter smile. "Junior martial brother Ji, we know that you have a close relationship with Yun Yao. That Miracle Dr. Bailey is Yun Yao's grandfather, so he shouldn't be a stranger to you. We just want to inquire about it. Do you know if Divine Dr. Bailey has any specific requirements for accepting a disciple? Did he ever reveal anything about it?" Ji Tianqing finally understood that the four of them wanted to gather information and make preparations in advance. He shook his head and said with a calm expression, "I'm not familiar with Divine Dr. Bailey. I've only met him twice. How would I know any news? Divine Dr. Bailey never mentioned this matter, and I even offended him because of a misunderstanding, so how can I ask about this matter?" Ling Yijue and the three martial monarchs' sons immediately wore disappointed looks. If that's the case, then I'll have to thank junior brother Ji." Ling Yi cupped his hands in salute and did not stop him anymore. After Ji Tianqing left, the three martial monarchs gathered around Ling Yijue and discussed in low voices. "I didn't expect Ji Tianqing to not be familiar with Divine Dr. Bailey. What should we do? What requirements does Divine Dr. Bailey have? We're completely in the dark. We don't have any advantage at all." "You can't say that. I think our chances are even greater now." Hearing Lu Ziyuan's words, everyone looked at him with puzzled eyes. Lu Ziyuan hurriedly explained, "We all know that Ji Tianqing has a close relationship with Yun Yao. He's also the #1 genius of the human race, and his name is known throughout the central state. I was worried just now that his talent and reputation far surpasses ours, and he has the highest chance of becoming Divine Dr. Bailey's disciple. I didn't expect that he's not familiar with Divine Dr. Bailey and has even offended him. In this case, his chances are very slim. Our strongest competitor is gone, so of course our chances are greater." Everyone nodded in agreement when they heard that, and their eyes were filled with anticipation. Only Ling Yijue remained silent, thinking silently in his heart, Ji Tianqing has created miracles again and again. Who knows how good his relationship with Cloud Soul Palace is? If he becomes Divine Dr. Bailey's disciple, his name will definitely spread throughout the central state, and he'll become an influential figure, and be targeted by various forces. As soon as Ji Tianqing left Ling Yijue and the others, he was recognized by the guests in the square. Hey, isn't that Ji Tianqing? He's here too. Could it be that he's also here for Divine Dr. Bailey's disciple? There was a rumor in the central state before that Ji Tianqing seems to have a close relationship with Yun Yao. If he wants to be Divine Dr. Bailey's disciple, his chances must be very high, right? This guy's name is already known throughout the central state. He's so dazzling. Is he going to snatch this opportunity from us? For a moment, many guests' eyes were gathered on Ji Tianqing, and the crowd began to whisper and discuss. Those confident and high-spirited young talents and disciples of aristocratic families suddenly felt a great sense of danger and pressure, and they were all on their guard against Ji Tianqing. The leaders of the various forces were also carefully sizing him up, and secretly communicating with each other through voice transmission. So he's Ji Tianqing. It's true that hearing about him is not as good as meeting him in person, and meeting him in person is even more impressive. The number one genius of the human race, the genius imperial prince, the Tianqin region lord. With such dazzling glory and light on him, it's enough to crush the young people of his generation. Is he the one who destroyed the Duanmu family's herb garden alone, and caused the Duanmu family's vitality to be greatly damaged? I've only heard of his legends before, but I've finally seen him in person today. He's indeed extraordinary and in high spirits. The young talents of his generation were both envious and jealous of him. The leaders and powerhouses of the older generation were also very wary of him, and did not dare to underestimate him. Ji Tianqing did not say or do anything. He just calmly walked across the square, and naturally became the focus of the crowd. It was not until he left the square and walked into the main hall that the crowd withdrew their gazes, and began to whisper to each other. Now, he had become one of the most distinguished figures in the central state in just a year, and he was so dazzling that people could only look up to him. At this moment, at the entrance of the square, a guard commander announced loudly. The Emperor of the Imperial Court has arrived at the Cloud Spirit Palace with his heavenly concubine to congratulate Miracle Dr. Bailey on his birthday. The loud voice spread throughout the square, and more than 2,000 people turned around to look at the entrance of the square. Many powerhouses and leaders in the main hall also stood up and looked at the end of the square. The great elder of the Yun family also brought a few deacons out of the main hall, and came to the square to welcome them personally. On the wide road at the entrance of the square, there was a dignified and graceful young man and woman. They were surrounded by guards, and they walked over in a dignified manner. On the left was a young man in a golden dragon robe. He had a dignified appearance, and he was extraordinarily handsome. He was the son of heaven, Long Yunxiao. Beside him was a beautiful woman in a phoenix robe. Her appearance was extremely beautiful, and her temperament was graceful and elegant. She was the heavenly concubine, Ensuan. Chapter 763. At this moment, everyone's gaze was focused on Long Yunxiao and Ensuan. Long Yunxiao was handsome and extraordinary, while Ensuan was beautiful and dignified. In everyone's eyes, they were a perfect match. Only a very small number of people, including Ji Tianqing, knew that this couple was just a couple in name. However, when Ji Tianqing saw Long Yunxiao and Ensuan walk side by side through the plaza, he was still a little surprised. Up until now, this should be the first time Long Yunxiao has brought Ensuan out in public, right? Although Long Yunxiao might not have any feelings for Ensuan. But he was willing to bring Ensuan to the birthday celebration, and was willing to let Ensuan hold his arm. This was a big step forward. I'm sure Ensuan's mood right now must be very happy, right? Perhaps Ensuan has already learned how to capture Long Yunxiao's heart. This is a good start. These thoughts flashed through Ji Tianqing's mind, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. He felt gratified that Long Yunxiao and Ensuan's relationship had warmed up. Soon, Long Yunxiao and Ensuan arrived at the entrance of the main hall under the respectful welcome of the Yun family's head elder and the greetings of the crowd. Before they even stepped through the door, Long Yunxiao and Ensuan saw Ji Tianqing. The husband and wife looked at him at the same time, and walked in front of him with tacit understanding. They nodded and greeted him. Ji Tianqing, I trust you've been well since we last met. Long Yunxiao looked at him with a calm expression, and a smile hung on his lips as he greeted him. Greetings, son of heaven, heavenly consort. Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and greeted them, and exchanged a few pleasantries. After he finished chatting with Long Yunxiao, and Suwen said with a smile, Prince Tianqing, why don't you sit with us? We're all familiar with each other, and we can chat happily. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and looked at Long Yunxiao. Seeing that Long Yunxiao's expression didn't change, he smiled and said, since heavenly consort has invited me, I'll accept. Thus, the three of them walked side by side to the table on the left side of the hall and sat down. In the main hall, to the north was the main seat. Only Yun Zhongqi, his wife, and the birthday boy, Miracle Dr. Bailey, were allowed to sit there. As for the distinguished guests, they sat on the left and right sides of the main hall. Among them, the seat of honor on the left was the most honorable. It was a seat reserved for VIPs, and only Long Yunxiao and Suwen were allowed to sit there. However, there was one more person now, Ji Tianqing. However, none of the guests in the hall felt that it was inappropriate. They all thought that it was only right and proper. After Ji Tianqing and Long Yunxiao took their seats, most of the VIPs had arrived. The guard commander at the entrance of the main hall announced loudly, the birthday star, Miracle Dr. Bailey, has arrived. Master and mistress have arrived. Along with a majestic and vigorous voice, divine Dr. Bailey appeared with Yun Zhongqi and his wife in white robes fluttering in the wind. They strode into the main hall. Immediately, everyone in the main hall hurriedly stood up and bowed to divine Dr. Bailey to congratulate him. Miracle Dr. Bailey's face was glowing. He walked through the main hall with a smile on his face and cupped his fists to thank the guests on both sides. Not long after, Miracle Dr. Bailey, Yun Zhongqi, and his wife took their seats at the main seat. Miracle Dr. Bailey cupped his fists and bowed to the guests. His voice was loud and clear as he thanked the guests and welcomed them to Cloud Spirit Palace. After he finished speaking, Yun Zhongqi announced that the birthday banquet had officially begun. Along with the sound of gongs and drums, groups of young and beautiful maids walked out like flowing water. They brought out many delicious dishes and nectar. There were also many charming dancers and musicians who played beautiful music and performed beautiful dances. In the main hall and the square in front of the main hall, more than 2,000 guests drank to their heart's content to celebrate Miracle Dr. Bailey's 300th birthday. Following that, the distinguished guests in the main hall took advantage of the lively and joyous atmosphere to offer their congratulations to Miracle Dr. Bailey. A burly middle-aged expert stood up first and bowed to Miracle Dr. Bailey. He said in a loud voice, Miracle Dr. Bailey, I am Li Hao, the president of the Middle State Hero Union. I have heard of Miracle Dr. Bailey's name since I was young. Today, I have specially come to Cloud Spirit Palace to celebrate your birthday. I wish Miracle Dr. Bailey a long life and good fortune. After he finished speaking, he raised his wine cup and drank the wine in it in one gulp. Immediately, 4 experts from the Heroes Assembly carried 2 luxurious chests into the main hall and presented the treasures as congratulatory gifts. The 4 experts put down the big boxes and opened them in front of everyone. They saw that the 2 big boxes were filled with dazzling upper spiritual stones, various pearls and gems, as well as fine gold and jade. They bloomed with dazzling brilliance. The 2 big boxes of treasures were really expensive. They were generous and generous. Many of the guests were amazed. Li Hao's expression did not change, but he was secretly pleased with himself. After all, he was the first to present a generous gift. Although it did not enter Miracle Dr. Bailey's eyes, it would leave a deep impression on the Yun family. He would definitely be recognized by Cloud Spirit Palace. Sure enough, Miracle Dr. Bailey's expression did not change. He smiled and nodded his head in thanks. Yun Zhongqi looked deeply at Li Hao before ordering the housekeeper beside him to put away the 2 boxes of treasures. Li Hao of the Hero Union was the first to present his treasures and received Yun Zhongqi's recognition. This made the other powerful people envious and restless. City Lord of Tomorrow Night City, Chin He, congratulates Miracle Dr. Bailey on his 300th birthday. I hereby present my humble gift. 2 guards carried the simple and unadorned boxes into the main hall. They opened the boxes in front of everyone and presented the treasures to Miracle Dr. Bailey. Inside the boxes, there was a piece of 10,000-year cold jade and a piece of 10,000-year fire jade. Such a peerless jade was a top-notch treasure material. It was rare and difficult to find. Its attributes were ice and fire, which made people click their tongues in wonder. A Grandmaster blacksmith could use these 2 pieces of jade to refine a soul-grade Dharma treasure. It would definitely have great effects. Miracle Dr. Bailey could use these 2 pieces of jade to display his medical skills and treat people. It would also be of great help and increase his strength. These gifts could not be considered priceless, but they catered to Miracle Dr. Bailey's preferences. Miracle Dr. Bailey's face was full of smiles as he hurriedly nodded his head in thanks. Yun Zhongqi also remembered the City Lord of Tomorrow Night City and had a whole new level of respect for him. Next, the various powerful people and leaders of the various forces all stood up to congratulate Miracle Dr. Bailey on his birthday. They presented the gifts that they had prepared beforehand. These forces were either rich and powerful families that had been passed down for hundreds of years, or they were ancient sects, or they were the lords of mighty cities. The gifts that they presented were either extravagant to the point of causing people to exclaim in admiration, or they were strange to the point that they catered to Miracle Dr. Bailey's preferences. In short, everyone had put in a lot of effort to prepare their gifts. Ji Tianqing could see that the reason why the various forces were willing to spend so much money to present their gifts was not only to congratulate Miracle Dr. Bailey on his birthday, but also to express their stance to Cloud Spirit Palace, hoping to gain Cloud Spirit Palace's recognition. After all, Cloud Spirit Palace was going to announce something big tonight and summon all the heroes to participate in the grand occasion. Chapter 764. Soon, an hour had passed. Sitting in the hall were over 60 patriarchs, city lords, sect masters, and leaders. All of them presented their congratulatory gifts to Miracle Dr. Bailey. Most of them had come to cooperate with Cloud Spirit Palace. Their gifts were extremely precious, and there was no lack of rare and precious treasures. Ji Tianqing had also seen many precious treasures, which had widened his horizons. At the same time, he had a deeper understanding of the power and prestige of Cloud Spirit Palace in Zhongzhou. It was really terrifying. Following that, many young talents in the square also entered the hall to congratulate Miracle Dr. Bailey and present their congratulatory gifts. Although these young talents' gifts were not as extravagant as those of the big forces, they were still very valuable. They had put in a lot of effort into it. There were all kinds of gifts, including spiritual stones, elixirs, charms, and all kinds of materials. There were also antiques and precious treasures. Although these young talents did not state their intentions clearly, everyone could see that they were using the birthday as an opportunity to be apprenticed to Miracle Dr. Bailey. Everyone wanted to show off in front of Miracle Dr. Bailey and leave a good impression on him. Even the imperial princes of the imperial mansion were no exception. They had all spent a lot of money and took out precious treasures as gifts. Miracle Dr. Bailey and Yun Zhongqi thanked everyone for their gifts. Everyone entered and left the hall in an endless stream, which made the atmosphere very lively and festive. On the right side of the hall, Zhu Fifan sat at the table expressionlessly and looked at everyone calmly. Although he did not show it on his face, he sneered in his heart. A group of guys who do not know the immensity of heaven and earth. How dare they dream of becoming my grandfather's last disciple and inheriting the medical skills? Humph. Do you think you can get what you want by presenting generous gifts? I can guarantee that after tonight, my grandfather won't even remember your names. My grandfather's medical skills must be mine. Finally, over 60 young geniuses had presented their congratulatory gifts. No one went forward to present their gifts in public. Many people looked at the left side of the hall. It was the emperors, the heavenly concubines and Ji Tianqing's turn to congratulate Miracle Dr. Bailey. Many experts in the hall focused their gazes on the three of them, looking forward to what would happen next. Even on the square outside the hall, many young geniuses stuck their heads out to look into the hall, and they wanted to see what treasures the three of them were going to offer. After all, the emperor and the heavenly concubine represented the imperial court. Ji Tianqing was also the #1 genius of the human clan in the Central Plains, the realm lord of Tianquan. Their gifts should have exceeded everyone else's. However, Ji Tianqing obviously didn't realize this. He was looking around, his eyes sweeping the hall twice, looking for Yun Yao's figure everywhere. Unfortunately, he couldn't find Yun Yao anywhere in the hall. Strange, tonight is Miracle Dr. Bailey's birthday banquet, why didn't Yao Yao come? Where did she go? Could he have been delayed by something? Just as he was worrying, Long Yunxiao and Ensuin stood up. Under everyone's gaze, the two of them cupped their hands and congratulated Miracle Dr. Bailey. I, together with the heavenly concubine, congratulate Miracle Dr. Bailey on his birthday. May the Miracle Doctor live forever. After the greeting, Long Yunxiao took out a treasure box from his interspatial ring. Divine Dr. Bailey, today is your 300th birthday. This monarch has already prepared a congratulatory gift a month ago. This is a core crystal from the fiery mountain in the southern wasteland. 600 years ago, a powerful soul-refining stage cultivator risked his life and found this crystal in the sea of lava thousands of miles deep underground. As he spoke, Long Yunxiao opened the box, and a walnut-sized fiery red crystal core appeared. When the box was opened, the crystal core emitted a dazzling red light, illuminating the entire hall. The power of the flame emitted by the crystal core was terrifying. It instantly doubled the temperature of the hall. Although everyone present was a martial Dao expert, they still felt their bodies burning. Even their blood and true essence flowed faster. Everyone stared at the earth core crystal core with wide eyes, and their eyes were filled with shock. Oh my God! It's an earth fire crystal core. Such a treasure comes from the depths of the earth. Only a spirit refinement realm expert can find it. Such a treasure is simply priceless. Even an ordinary Tongxian realm martial artist could become a sky origin realm martial artist if he could make good use of this crystal core. This is a priceless treasure. I didn't expect the Son of Heaven to be so generous. This treasure is comparable to a spirit-level magic treasure. All the experts and leaders in the hall, as well as the young talents outside the hall, were shocked by the earth core crystal core. Even Miracle Dr. Bailey and Yun Zhongqi's eyes flashed. They didn't expect Long Yunxiao to present such a precious treasure in front of everyone. Long Yunxiao continued, I know that your medical skills are unparalleled in the world, and your alchemy skills are unparalleled in the world. If this earth core crystal core is integrated into your alchemy furnace, it will provide you with an endless supply of alchemy fire. It will make your alchemy twice the result with half the effort. Of course, with your peerless alchemy skills, this earth core crystal core is just icing on the cake. Miracle Dr. Bailey and Yun Zhongqi quickly stood up and bowed to Long Yunxiao and Ensuin to express their gratitude. Miracle Dr. Bailey smiled kindly and said, the Son of Heaven has brought the heavenly concubine to Cloud Spirit Palace to celebrate my birthday. It has brought light to Cloud Spirit Palace and made me feel grateful. But the Son of Heaven has given me such a precious treasure. How can I accept it? As the saying goes, one should not accept a reward without any effort. I ask the Son of Heaven to accept such a great gift. Long Yunxiao smiled and said, Miracle Dr. Bailey, this is a token of my sincerity. Please accept it. Moreover, I have been studying alchemy for the past few years. There are many things that are difficult to understand. I have always wanted to ask you for advice, but I never had the chance. Hearing Long Yunxiao's words, everyone's expression changed slightly. Even Bailey Yi's eyes flashed with a hint of astonishment. Everyone understood that Long Yunxiao wanted to be Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple and learn his alchemy skills. The leaders of the major forces had complicated expressions. The young talents outside the main hall also showed anxiety and jealousy. They cursed in their hearts. Long Yunxiao, as the Son of Heaven, actually wants to be Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. It's over. We have calculated everything, but we missed the Son of Heaven. Damn it. He is the Son of Heaven of the Imperial Court. He has a good relationship with Cloud Spirit Palace. Now he has given such a rare treasure. It seems that this disciple position is only for him. Compared to the Son of Heaven, we are simply clouds and mud. How can we compete with him? It turns out that he is the strongest competitor. Even Zhu Fifen's expression changed abruptly. His eyes flashed with a touch of darkness, and his fists were secretly clenched. Damn it! Previously there was Ji Tianqing, and now there is Long Yunxiao. As the Son of Heaven, he is also coveting grandfather's inherited medical skills. This is big trouble. Grandfather may not be able to reject him. Zhu Fifen felt a great sense of crisis and was extremely anxious. Among the people in the main hall, only Ji Tianqing's expression did not change. He did not have much of a reaction. Miracle Dr. Bailey and Yun Zhongqi were stunned. Apparently, they did not expect that the Son of Heaven would also want to be Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. This was too sudden. Everyone's eyes gathered on Miracle Dr. Bailey to see how he would choose. Even Long Yunxiao was looking at him with an expectant look. In everyone's opinion, Miracle Dr. Bailey would most likely agree. After all, the Son of Heaven's status was extremely noble and his talent was extremely high. He would not tarnish the reputation of Miracle Dr. Bailey. Chapter 765. If it was anyone else, it would be hard for them to reject the Emperor. Everyone thought that Miracle Dr. Bailey would be humble and accept the Earth Core Crystal Core with a smile, accepting the Emperor's good intentions. However, Miracle Dr. Bailey revealed an apologetic look and said in a serious tone, "Emperor, if that's the case, then I can't accept this gift. You are the Emperor. Other than the Emperor and the Imperial Tutor, who else can be your master? Moreover, the Emperor and the Imperial Tutor are much more knowledgeable than me. Why should the Emperor give up what's close at hand and seek what's far away?" Hearing Divine Dr. Bailey's words, everyone revealed a stunned expression. Miracle Dr. Bailey actually rejected? How is that possible? If Miracle Dr. Bailey doesn't even like the Emperor, then who else is qualified to be his disciple? Long Yunxiao seemed to have expected Miracle Dr. Bailey to reject, so he wasn't surprised. However, a trace of disappointment flashed across his eyes. He secretly glanced at Ji Tianqing and sighed in his heart, sigh. Seems like Miracle Dr. Bailey has already chosen his disciple. Thinking of this, he maintained his smile and said to Miracle Dr. Bailey, "Since I'm not fated to be your disciple, let's not talk about this. However, please accept this gift." Miracle Dr. Bailey and Yun Zhongqi both understood that if they didn't accept the Emperor's gift, it would seem that the Emperor was stingy. Therefore, Yun Zhongqi opened his mouth to accept the gift on behalf of Miracle Dr. Bailey and thanked the Emperor again and again. The matter came to an end. Although it caused quite a commotion, it soon calmed down. Everyone's eyes were focused on Ji Tianqing, and they were filled with anticipation. Ji Tianqing stood up and bowed with a smile on his face. "Junior Ji Tianqing congratulates Miracle Dr. Bailey on your 300th birthday. May your fortune be as great as the East Sea and your longevity be as long as the stars. Junior has also prepared a small gift for you as a token of my sincerity." After that, Ji Tianqing took out 2 treasure boxes from his interspatial ring. Immediately, a maid came forward to receive the treasure box. She held the treasure box with both hands and walked to the front of the main seat, opening it in front of everyone. Ji Tianqing did not introduce anything because the things in the box were not worthy of a grand introduction. Everyone's gazes were gathered on the treasure box, staring at the item in the box. In the treasure box on the left, there were 3 jade green and translucent medicinal herbs. The medicinal herbs were protected by the array formation of the treasure box. Even now, they were still full of vitality, exuding rich green with spirit qi. These were obviously 3 rare and precious herbs. Many of the experts present could not name these herbs. On the other hand, the treasure box on the right contained a few simple and aged artifacts. There were fragments of magic treasures, ancient books on the Tao of pills, and some other treasures that he couldn't name. These treasures all had a common characteristic, and that was that they were very ancient. They all had a history of over 1,000 years, and seemed to contain some secrets from before the ancient times. However, Ji Tianqing's experience was still shallow, so he couldn't figure out the mysteries of these things. The medicinal herbs and ancient artifacts that he gave were all carefully selected by him. They would definitely be useful to divine Dr. Bailey. Moreover, he didn't have much family wealth to begin with. It was already not easy for him to take out these things. Those 6 medicinal herbs were the most precious medicinal herbs that he specially picked when he destroyed the Duanmu family's longevity garden. If other young talents gave these things, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, his status was special. Giving such a congratulatory gift instantly caused the atmosphere in the hall to become somewhat strange. The various experts looked at him with slightly strange gazes, and the young geniuses outside the hall even emitted bursts of discussion. It can't be. Ji Tianqing actually only gave a few medicinal herbs and a pile of junk. Heavens, it's really a small gift. TSK, this gift that Ji Tianqing gave can't even compare to my congratulatory gift. How can he have the nerve to take out these things as congratulatory gifts? Is he looking down on Cloud Spirit Palace? Or is he looking down on divine Dr. Bailey? Many young talents unscrupulously discussed, not concealing the contempt and ridicule in their tone. They had always hoped to become divine Dr. Bailey's disciple and were extremely wary of Ji Tianqing, afraid that this quota would be snatched by Ji Tianqing. Now that Ji Tianqing had taken out an extremely ordinary gift, they took this opportunity to criticize and ridicule Ji Tianqing, making him lose the qualifications to compete for the position of divine doctor's disciple. Tianzi had already been rejected. If Ji Tianqing was also eliminated, the 2 strong competitors would be eliminated and their chances would be even greater. On this point, the dozens of young talents all understood. Hence, everyone added fuel to the fire and the discussion became louder and louder. Everyone in the hall heard it clearly and there was a subtle change in their gazes. Everyone had the intention of gloating, wanting to see Ji Tianqing make a fool of himself in front of everyone, or how to resolve the awkwardness. But Ji Tianqing's expression did not change. He was still calm and indifferent. Long Yun Shao, who was sitting beside him, secretly asked, "If you are short on money, I can lend you a treasure to help you resolve this matter." Long Yun Shao was also very clear that Ji Tianqing's reputation was very big, but he did not have a strong background, nor did he accumulate many resources and treasures. Ji Tianqing rejected and said, "Thank you for your kindness, Tianzi, but there is no need." The discussion outside the hall became noisier and noisier, and the atmosphere in the hall became more and more awkward. Divine Dr. Bailey hurriedly opened his mouth and said with a smile, "Tianqing, you have already given me a huge congratulatory gift previously, which made me very satisfied and happy. Why do you have to give me another gift tonight?" Hearing him say this, all the guests were stunned. Ji Tianqing has already given a congratulatory gift? When did this happen? Divine Dr. Bailey wouldn't be deliberately helping Ji Tianqing out of his predicament by saying this, right? Everyone was full of doubts and whispered to each other. Ji Tianqing also raised his eyebrows and felt a little warm in his heart. He thought that divine Dr. Bailey deliberately said this to help him resolve the awkwardness. At this time, divine Dr. Bailey opened his mouth and explained, "Everyone must be confused and think that I am helping Ji Tianqing out, right? In fact, there is something that you all might not know. Just half a month ago, this old man's precious granddaughter, Yun Yao, was kidnapped by a demon clan powerhouse and planted with the incomparably vicious blood transformation curse. That is a curse that even I am unable to resolve. No one can save her, and Yao Yao's life is at stake." Hearing this, the guests inside and outside the hall were all shocked. No one would have thought that such a thing would happen to Yun Yao. The savage and evil demon clan dared to lay their hands on the young miss of Cloud Spirit Palace. They were simply too despicable and vicious. However, when the princes of the imperial residence heard about this, their expressions changed immediately. They knew the outcome of this matter and immediately guessed divine Dr. Bailey's intention. Divine Dr. Bailey's gaze swept across the hall and he continued in a serious tone, at the critical moment when Yao Yao was about to lose her life, Ji Tianqing stepped forward bravely. With the help of the Divine Doctor of the Imperial Residence, he transferred the blood dissipation curse to himself. He used his life to bear the curse and resolved the danger to Yao Yao's life. Yao Yao is not only the apple of Cloud's Spirit Palace's eye, but also my most beloved granddaughter. She is more precious than any treasure in this world. Ji Tianqing almost lost his life in order to save Yao Yao. Isn't this a great congratulatory gift to me? What else in this world is more precious than life? Divine Dr. Bailey's words were as loud as a bell and as powerful as thunder. His vigorous and powerful voice reverberated throughout the entire hall, lingering for a long time. Chapter 766. If someone else said these words, everyone might think that it was fake and that they were twisting words to help Ji Tianqing out of the predicament. However, Ji Tianqing did risk his life to save Yun Yao. Yun Yao was Divine Dr. Bailey's granddaughter. How noble was her status and how precious was her life. Divine Dr. Bailey was a doctor who had saved countless lives. Of course, he regarded life as the most precious thing. When he said these words, not only did they not have the slightest bit of falsehood, but they also highlighted his noble character and benevolence as a doctor. For a moment, everyone was in awe of Divine Dr. Bailey and Ji Tianqing. Because if it were anyone else, they would not be like Ji Tianqing and use their own life to save Yun Yao. Everyone thought about it carefully and was convinced by Divine Dr. Bailey's words. Ji Tianqing's gift was indeed a priceless treasure. Just as the hall was silent and everyone's mood was complicated, Long Yun Shao stood up and applauded excitedly. Good. Divine Dr. Bailey said it very well. Life is the most precious and priceless treasure. Divine Dr. Bailey's medical skills are miraculous and his medical ethics are noble. He can be said to be a miraculous doctor with a benevolent heart. He is a role model for all the doctors in the world. This monarch sincerely admires him. Ji Tianqing did not hesitate to save his own life. This monarch also witnessed this matter with his own eyes. This monarch really admires him. As Long Yun Zhao's voice fell, the guests inside and outside the hall also stood up and applauded, cheering for Divine Dr. Bailey and Ji Tianqing. The atmosphere in the hall instantly changed from awkward to hot-blooded, resonating and admiring. Those who were gloating and waiting to see Ji Tianqing make a fool of himself immediately withdrew their contempt and showed expressions of heartfelt admiration. In the square in front of the hall, those young talents who were criticizing and ridiculing Ji Tianqing all looked like they had been slapped in the face. Their cheeks turned red and they lowered their heads in shame. Compared to Ji Tianqing's act of sacrificing himself to save others, what they had done just now was truly despicable and disgusting. Even if Divine Dr. Bailey announced that he would accept Ji Tianqing as his disciple at this moment, they would have nothing to say, nor would they have any reason to refute. However, things weren't over yet. Divine Dr. Bailey extended his hand and took the treasure box from the maidservant's hand. He carefully observed the 3 stalks of medicinal herbs, the magic treasure, the alchemy book, and the ancient artifact fragment. Everyone looked at him quietly, not knowing what he was going to do. A moment later, Miracle Dr. Bailey suddenly discovered something. Immediately, his eyes surged with radiance as he revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. He held the treasure box with the 3 herbs in his hands and said excitedly, "Everyone, perhaps in your eyes, these are only 3 rare herbs. However, I want to tell you all that these 3 herbs are not only rare and precious, but they are also one of a kind. These 3 herbs were called the resurrection grass. No matter who dies, even if their 3 souls and 7 spirits are scattered, I can still use the resurrection grass to revive them. Moreover, the greatest effect of the resurrection grass is to condense the soul. Even if a soul refinement expert's soul is severely injured and on the verge of death, this medicine can be used to heal the injury and recover to its original state. To a soul refinement realm expert, using the resurrection grass to refine the resurrection pill is a miracle medicine to heal the soul injury. With this medicine in hand, a soul refinement realm expert is equivalent to having an extra life. Divine Dr. Bailey's imposing manner was like a rainbow, his voice was filled with excitement and surprise as it reverberated in the hall. Everyone was dumbfounded, dumbstruck. No one would have thought that the ordinary spiritual herbs that they looked down on and ridiculed with contempt were actually priceless treasures. A top-grade spiritual herb that could allow a soul refinement expert to have an extra life, this was absolutely a treasure that would make countless soul refinement experts go crazy for. Many experts in the hall were filled with shock and disbelief. The young talents in the square in front of the hall were even more shocked until they were dumbstruck like wooden chickens. When they regained their senses, their faces were flushed red with shame and their emotions were complicated to the extreme. They didn't dare to raise their heads to look at Ji Tianqing, much less the reaction of the people around them. They were so ashamed that they wished they could find a hole to burrow into. After all, their knowledge was shallow and they didn't recognize the rare resurrection grass. They even opened their mouths to mock Ji Tianqing earlier. How ironic and shameful was this? Although everyone didn't understand how Ji Tianqing could have such a precious spiritual herb. But some experts who knew the inside story immediately guessed that these 3 stalks of resurrection grass were most likely related to the Duanmu family's herb garden. Divine Dr. Bailey was the clearest that these 3 stalks of resurrection grass were definitely snatched from the longevity garden. Because he had traversed the entire profound sky continent and spent dozens of years, but he still couldn't find a spiritual herb like the resurrection grass. Rumor had it that only the Duanmu family had obtained the resurrection grass 200 years ago and nurtured it as the treasure of the longevity garden. Just as everyone's emotions were surging and they were exclaiming inexplicably, Divine Dr. Bailey held up the treasure box that contained all kinds of antique fragments and said excitedly, "Other than the 3 stalks of resurrection grass, these seemingly insignificant antique fragments are also extremely rare treasures." As everyone knows, the mysterious and vast southern wilderness swamp is as mysterious as the eastern sea's bottomless ruins. Within these 2 forbidden areas, there are ancient ruins buried. There are even primordial soul supremes cave residences. Previously, when I was traveling outside, I was exploring the southern wilderness swamp to search for spiritual herbs and ancient ruins. If I'm not wrong, there are a few Dharma treasures and ancient weapon fragments that came from the southern wilderness swamp's 7 Slaughter ancient palace. Hearing Divine Dr. Bailey's words, everyone opened their eyes wide again and revealed a shocked expression. Many experts who had heard of the 7 Slaughter ancient palace couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. In the Middle State, there were many legends from the ancient era. It was said that it was a magnificent era where geniuses came forth in large numbers and experts were as numerous as trees in the forest. At that time, martial arts prospered in the Tian Xian land and the number of primordial soul supremes was 10 times more than now. In the historical records, the 7 Slaughter Supremes was a Supreme's elite warrior with boundless power. The 7 Slaughter ancient palace was the cave residence of the 7 Slaughter Supremes. According to the legends, after he had mastered the 7 Slaughter Supremes and surpassed the primordial soul supremes, he left the Tian Xian land. It was unknown how many rare treasures were hidden in his 7 Slaughter ancient palace. It might even contain his martial arts succession. For thousands of years, countless elite warriors rushed to the southern wilderness swamp dauntlessly. They risked their lives to search for the 7 Slaughter ancient palace and explore the secrets and treasures inside. However, the 7 Slaughter ancient palace was protected by the primordial soul formation and many mysterious and profound defenses. Up until now, no one had solved the secrets of the 7 Slaughter ancient palace and truly explored the depths of the ancient palace. Those seemingly ancient fragments were actually from the 7 Slaughter ancient palace. This was an extremely important clue, a rare treasure. Chapter 767. Those seemingly worthless ancient fragments were actually related to the 7 Kills Supreme's cave abode and martial arts legacy. This was definitely an immeasurably rare treasure. The value of those ancient fragments was even more precious than the resurrection grass. Today, when the news spread, the resurrection grass and the 7 Kills ancient palace's fragments would definitely cause a sensation in the central region. If these 2 treasures were in the hands of the Cloud Spirit Palace, it would be fine. The various forces were afraid of the Cloud Spirit Palace's strength and might not dare to act rashly. If an ordinary wealthy family or force obtained these two treasures, it would definitely bring about a fatal disaster. They would be besieged and robbed by countless forces and powerhouses. Thinking of this, many powerhouses' hearts were filled with shock and excitement. Ji Tianqing's gift was too precious. It was even more precious than the earth core crystal core that Long Yunxiao had offered. However, everyone was blind and did not recognize the value of the treasure. They wanted to see Ji Tianqing make a fool of himself and mocked him proudly. This shocking fact gave everyone a resounding slap in the face. They were so ashamed that they wanted to crawl into a hole to hide their faces. Inside and outside the hall, countless guests were silent. Their expressions were ugly and their hearts were filled with shame and awkwardness. When they looked at Ji Tianqing again, they felt that he was even more unfathomable, mysterious, and valiant. He could actually give away such rare and precious treasures. Just how rich and powerful were his assets and treasures? When everyone was mocking and criticizing him, his expression did not change and he was indifferent. How magnanimous was that? Or perhaps, when everyone was mocking and criticizing him, his heart was filled with contempt and he did not even bother to open his mouth to explain. Thinking of this, countless guests felt as if they were sitting on pins and needles. They were even more ashamed and wanted to die. Especially those guests who were the loudest and gloating. They were too ashamed to stay any longer and left the banquet dejectedly. However, no one knew that Ji Tianqing's mood at this moment was actually a little confused. He looked at the 3 resurrection grasses and the pile of ancient fragments and muttered to himself, "Did old Master Bailey deliberately make up a lie to scare people? Is this gift really so precious?" In fact, when he destroyed the longevity garden, he saw that the 3 stalks of resurrection grass were the most well-protected and had the most mysterious and powerful auras, so he picked them in passing. He had obtained those ancient, broken fragments by accident when he was looting the spoils of war in recent months. He didn't care about these things at all. He only knew that these fragments were very ancient and mysterious. Perhaps they were related to some secret, so he gave them to divine Dr. Bailey. He thought that with miracle Dr. Bailey's experience and knowledge, he might be able to unravel the secret of the ancient fragment. However, he had never imagined that the outcome would be so shocking. If he had known that the resurrection grass and the ancient fragment were so precious, perhaps he wouldn't have. As he thought of this, another thought popped into his mind. If I didn't give these things to him, how would he know the value of these things and the secrets involved? Speaking of which, I should thank old man Bailey. If he hadn't told me the truth just now, I might have thrown those fragments away as trash when I cleaned up my spatial ring in the future. At this moment, everyone in the hall came back to their senses. They looked at Miracle Dr. Bailey with burning eyes and a thick sense of envy. Miracle Dr. Bailey closed the 2 treasure boxes and said solemnly, "Tianqing, you have already given me a priceless treasure. I can't accept this gift anymore. Please take it back." Ji Tianqing was stunned for a moment. He smiled and shook his head. "Miracle Dr. Bailey, this is a token of my appreciation for you. How can I take it back after giving it away? As the saying goes, rouge is given to a beauty, a treasure sword is given to a hero. Only you can cultivate the resurrection grass and only you can refine it into an elixir. As for the ancient fragments of the 7 murders ancient palace, only you are knowledgeable enough to study them thoroughly and unravel the secret within. In my hands, these 2 treasures are like pearls covered in dust. It's a waste of God's gifts." Although Miracle Dr. Bailey understood this, he refused to accept the gift and was about to reject it again. At this moment, Yun Zhongqi's expression changed. He quickly sent a message to Miracle Dr. Bailey and said, "Father-in-law, you have already accepted the Emperor's gift. How can you be biased and reject Tianqing's gift? Anyway, you can accept the treasure tonight and return it to Tianqing in the future." Hearing this, Miracle Dr. Bailey nodded his head and said, "That makes sense." Therefore, he didn't reject the gift anymore. He smiled and said, "Tianqing, since this gift is a token of your appreciation, it would be impolite of me to refuse it. Moreover, everyone knows that this time when I return to Zhong province, I will use this birthday banquet as an opportunity to choose an upright and talented disciple to impart my medical skills to. Tianqing, I will take this gift as a gift for you to become my disciple. Miracle Dr. Bailey's voice reverberated throughout the hall. Countless guests in the square in front of the hall could hear him clearly. Although everyone had expected this, when they heard these words, their expressions still changed drastically, revealing incomparably complicated expressions. Miracle Dr. Bailey really wanted to accept Ji Tianqing as his disciple and impart his medical skills to him. From today onwards, Ji Tianqing would have many dazzling halos, including the identity of being Miracle Dr. Bailey's personal disciple. His status would become even more honorable and he would have a peerless miracle doctor as his backer. How enviable of an honor was this? The various experts in the hall all revealed astonished expressions. The young talents in the square in front of the hall were extremely envious of Ji Tianqing. However, Ji Tianqing was so perfect. Not only was he the #1 genius of the human race, but he had also given Miracle Dr. Bailey 2 sets of rare treasures. What reason did Miracle Dr. Bailey have to not choose him as his disciple? None. If it were anyone else, as long as they had a normal brain and IQ, they would definitely choose Ji Tianqing. Countless guests inside and outside the hall suddenly burst into heated discussions. Countless people exclaimed and envied. Zhu Fifan's face became extremely ugly. He clenched his fists so tightly that he didn't even realize that his fingernails were digging into his flesh and bleeding. Even Long Yun Xiao glanced sideways at Ji Tianqing as a bitter smile appeared on his face. Miracle Dr. Bailey really chose him early. This guy is really lucky. Everyone was shocked and their eyes were red with envy and jealousy. Only Ji Tianqing was still in a daze. He muttered in his heart, why did the old man suddenly announce that he wants to accept me as his disciple? I have never expressed this idea. I almost destroyed his ancient green maple tree before. Doesn't he bear a grudge at all? At this time, Miracle Dr. Bailey saw that he was silent, so he asked with a smile, Tianqing, don't you want to be my disciple? Don't you want to learn medical skills from me? Only then did the guests notice Ji Tianqing's reaction. Immediately, they burst into an uproar, and another round of heated discussion broke out. It was to the extent that many young geniuses even let out sorrowful roars. God! What's Ji Tianqing's expression? Doesn't he want to be his disciple? Ah! This guy is too abominable. We dream of being the disciple of Miracle Dr. Bailey. How dare he refuse? God doesn't open his eyes. The supreme glory that we yearn for even in our dreams has descended upon him, and he dares to despise it? God has eyes. Quickly send down the heavenly thunder to kill Ji Tianqing. He doesn't want to be his disciple, but I do. If I have to be the disciple of Miracle Dr. Bailey, I will kneel down and kowtow 10,000 times. Inside and outside the hall, there was a lot of noise and excitement. If Ji Tianqing dared to refuse Miracle Dr. Bailey, those young talents who were crazy with jealousy would rush into the hall and beat him up violently on the ground. Chapter 768. Ji Tianqing had never taken the initiative to ask Bailey Divine Doctor to be his disciple. He didn't even have such a dream or desire. He had always been calm and indifferent towards this matter. However, things had already developed to this point. He couldn't refuse Bailey Divine Doctor in front of everyone, could he? Not only would that hurt Bailey Divine Doctor's face, but it would also make everyone think that he didn't know how to appreciate favors. Since that was the case, then he would, reluctantly, become Bailey Divine Doctor's disciple. Ji Tianqing revealed a smile and bowed to Bailey Divine Doctor, explaining, Divine Dr. Bailey, you are a world-renowned Divine Doctor. Your medical skills have reached the pinnacle and are unparalleled in the world. To be able to become your disciple is a great honor for this junior. How could I dare to be unwilling? The reason why this junior hesitated just now was because of a problem. This junior and Yao Yao are of the same generation. If I were to address you as Yao Yao, then I should call you grandfather. If I were to become your disciple, then wouldn't the seniority be messed up? Hearing his words, Bailey Divine Doctor, Yun Zhongqi, and the many guests present immediately burst into laughter. Even the 2,000 guests in the square in front of the hall were amused by his words. Yun Zhongqi smiled and shook his head. He stroked his beard and said, Tianqing, this king knows what you're worried about. However, you don't need to worry about this matter. We are all martial artists. How can we be bound by the etiquette of mortals? Since you've become Bailey Divine Doctor's disciple, you and Bailey Divine Doctor will address each other as master and disciple. As for you and Yao Yao, as well as the rest of us, we will still address each other as master and disciple. This way, it won't affect your marriage with Yao Yao. Hearing the word marriage, Ji Tianqing's heartbeat sped up. His eyes widened, revealing a look of pleasant surprise. Marriage? Uncle, you mean to say? Yun Zhongqi and Bailey Ningsu smiled amiably and nodded. That's right, it's your marriage. However, Tianqing, you should become his disciple first. We'll talk about the marriage later. Even though Ji Tianqing had a firm will and was as calm as ice, when he heard Yun Zhongqi and his wife's words, his heart couldn't help but speed up, and he was filled with pleasant surprise and anticipation. Many of the guests in the hall were also shocked and confused. They did not understand what was going on. Beside Ji Tianqing, Long Yunxiao and Ensuan's expressions also changed slightly. Their gazes were complicated. Long Yunxiao looked calm on the surface, but a deep sense of loss flashed through his eyes. His heart also felt a stabbing pain. Ensuan also maintained her composure, but her eyes revealed a hint of relief. At this time, Miracle Dr. Bailey sat on the main seat and looked at Ji Tianqing with a kind smile. He joked, Tianqing, when you heard about marriage, you seem to have lost your soul. You only thought about your fiancé, don't tell me you've already tossed this old man beyond the clouds. Only then did Ji Tianqing come back to his senses. He smiled embarrassedly and said, No, old man, you've misunderstood. Miracle Dr. Bailey mercilessly exposed his lie. Although that's what you say, it seems like that's what you're thinking. Everyone burst into laughter again, and the atmosphere became more cheerful and joyful. Ji Tianqing was thinking about his marriage and Yun Yao, so he didn't waste any more time. He walked in front of Miracle Dr. Bailey and held up the apprenticeship tea delivered by the maid with both hands. He then bowed to Miracle Dr. Bailey. Disciple Ji Tianqing greets Master. Master didn't abandon me and is willing to accept me as his disciple and teach me medical skills. Disciple is moved to tears. I will serve Master wholeheartedly and study medicine with all my heart. I will not disappoint Master's teachings. In front of everyone, Ji Tianqing finished the apprenticeship ceremony and offered the apprenticeship tea with both hands. Miracle Dr. Bailey was filled with gratification. He drank the apprenticeship tea with a smile and said 3 good words. Tianqing. From today onwards, you are Master's last disciple. Master will treat you as his son and teach you everything he knows. In the future, when you learn Master's medical skills and alchemy skills, you must continue Master's wish to save people and help the world. You must bring Master's medical skills to greater heights. All the guests present witnessed this solemn moment with their own eyes. Although countless people were jealous and envious, they didn't dare to criticize or complain. They could only bless this pair of master and disciple. After all, among all the young talents present, no one was more outstanding than Ji Tianqing. No one was more qualified than him. Even the Son of Heaven, Long Yunxiao, couldn't compare to Ji Tianqing. Finally, the apprenticeship ceremony was over. Ji Tianqing and Miracle Dr. Bailey finally became master and disciple. Tonight's matter would be spread by countless guests and spread throughout the central region. Everyone knew that it wouldn't be long before this matter caused a huge uproar in the central region. Countless cultivators would talk about it. Ji Tianqing's name would once again spread throughout the central region. He would be respected by tens of thousands of people and be envied and worshipped by countless cultivators. Miracle Dr. Bailey returned to his seat and looked at Ji Tianqing with a smile. He didn't say anything else. Ji Tianqing also returned to his seat on the left. He looked at Yun Zhongqi expectantly, waiting for him to announce the next matter. Yun Zhongqi stood up with a smile on his face. He said in a dignified voice, "Everyone, on this beautiful day, Cloud Spirit Palace has two joyous events. I would like to announce the third joyous event. My daughter, Yun Yao, and Crown Prince, Ji Tianqing, got to know each other and loved each other. They have experienced many hardships and difficulties together. In countless life and death situations, they have trusted each other and helped each other. Such true feelings and love should be announced to the world for everyone to bear witness and bless. I would like to announce that Cloud Spirit Palace will accept Ji Tianqing as their son-in-law. Tonight, under the witness of all the guests, I would like to announce the engagement between my daughter, Yun Yao, and Ji Tianqing. From today onwards, anyone who goes against Ji Tianqing will be going against Cloud Spirit Palace. No matter who it is, if anyone dares to go against Ji Tianqing, they will have to bear the wrath of Cloud Spirit Palace and me." Yun Zhongqi's domineering and dignified voice spread out and reverberated in the night sky. Countless people were excited. They were extremely envious of Ji Tianqing. After tonight, apart from being the last disciple of Miracle Dr. Bailey, he would also have an awe-inspiring identity. He would be the son-in-law of Cloud Spirit Palace. He would be the husband of the prodigy, Yun Yao. Yun Zhongqi announced this important news in front of everyone. It was equivalent to announcing to the world that Cloud Spirit Palace was Ji Tianqing's most reliable backer. From today onwards, Cloud Spirit Palace would openly help Ji Tianqing against the Duanmu and Murong families. This was a declaration of war. The experts at the scene all understood this, thus they were all excited and cheered loudly. The expressions of the spies who were disguised as guests and hiding in the crowd suddenly changed. They were both panicked and angry. Chapter 769. The guests inside and outside the main hall were all clapping and cheering. The atmosphere was jubilant and warm. The various forces that were on good terms with Cloud Soul Palace all praised Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao, saying that they were a match made in heaven. Even the ordinary guests were looking forward to this and offered their blessings. Only Long Yun Shao could not feel happy or smile. Although he looked calm on the surface and did not lose his composure on the spot. However, his heart was filled with bitterness and a trace of sorrow. He had once fantasized that one day, he would be engaged to Yun Yao under the eyes and witness of tens of thousands of people. However, now that Yun Yao was about to get engaged, he was just an unimportant spectator. The person he loved the most, the person he could not let go of the most, was finally going to marry someone else. However, he could only watch helplessly, and he had to maintain his poise and smile. At this moment, who could understand the sorrow in his heart? He lowered his head and picked up the wine cup on the table. He raised his head and drank it in one gulp. A trace of deep sorrow flashed across his eyes. At this moment, he suddenly felt a soft and boneless hand reach out from beside him and hold his hand. This jade-like slender hand was delicate but warm. A trace of warmth passed through his palm and into his heart. He turned his head to look beside him and saw An-Suwen staring at him. Her eyes were filled with tenderness. An-Suwen did not open her mouth to comfort him. She did not even show any concern or worry. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were filled with determination and stubbornness. If she opened her mouth to comfort or dissuade him, Long Yun Shao would most likely think that she was sympathizing with him and would not care. After all, he was born proud and aloof. However, An-Suwen's calmness caused a trace of warmth to appear in his sorrowful heart. He gradually calmed down. He stared at An-Suwen and looked at her for a moment. Then, he slowly closed his fingers and held her hand. At this moment, Long Yun Xiao's heart calmed down. He gradually felt relieved and indifferent. An-Suwen was also secretly happy and gratified. At least, she was already trying to understand him and find her way into his heart. She was already beginning to see results. She suddenly felt very grateful to Yun Yao. At that time, she and Yun Yao were trapped in the magic cave in Black Ink Mountain. If it weren't for Yun Yao's words, she still didn't know what to do. She was afraid that she would still be jealous. Now, as she held Long Yunxiao's broad and powerful hand, she suddenly rejoiced. At this moment, the guard commander at the entrance of the hall shouted loudly, "Eldest Miss has arrived." The guests in the hall all turned their heads to look at the entrance. 6 elegant and graceful maids escorted a peerless beauty who was wearing a luxurious gown into the hall. Like a myriad of stars surrounding the moon, the 6 maidservants stood by the side of this peerless beauty, and it further accentuated her peerless beauty, graceful figure, and innate cold and noble bearing. She was wearing a light blue dress with a white cloud pattern and a red silk belt inlaid with jade, outlining her slender waist. Her cheeks were beautiful, like the perfect masterpiece of the Creator. It was breathtaking. When she walked through the hall with a dignified bearing and walked to the main seat, she was like a fairy descending from the 9th heaven. She was so holy that it made people feel ashamed of their inferiority. She was the eldest miss of Cloud's Soul Palace, the peerless beauty whose name shook the world, Yun Yao. In the past, she always wore a plain white dress without any makeup, giving people the impression that she was cold and noble. Tonight, she had put on a splendid dress and meticulously dressed up. She was so beautiful that it was suffocating. She was dignified and holy like a fairy, making people admire her but not dare to profane her. The hall was silent as countless gazes gathered on her. Many guests had witnessed her peerless beauty with their own eyes. They were stunned and their faces were full of admiration. Ji Tianqing also stared at Yun Yao with a smile on his face. His eyes were full of tenderness. "Yao Yao, we've gone through so many ups and downs. We've finally come to this day hand in hand and received the recognition of Cloud Soul Palace. I've waited for this day for too long," he murmured silently. His heart was filled with gratification and excitement. After a while, Yun Yao walked in front of Miracle Dr. Bailey and Yun Zhongqi. She bowed in a dignified manner. After that, she stood beside her mother, Bailey Ningsu, and looked at Ji Tianqing with a gentle gaze. The two of them looked at each other and saw the tenderness in each other's eyes. At this moment, Yun Zhongqi smiled and said to Ji Tianqing, "Tianqing, come here. Tonight, in front of all the guests and with everyone as witnesses, Cloud Soul Palace has set up a marriage contract for the two of you." Ji Tianqing nodded and walked over with a smile on his face. He stood side by side with Yun Yao and faced Yun Zhongqi and Bailey Ningsu. Miracle Dr. Bailey personally presided over the engagement ceremony and read out the marriage contract and vows for the two of them. "I'm glad that today's ceremony is completed and a good match is sealed. The two surnames are united in marriage and the contract is signed in one place. The two of you are well matched and have the same name. Look at the peach blossoms today and it's suitable for a family. I'm sure he'll be old and withered. With the promise of growing old, I'll write to the Hongjian so that the alliance of red leaves can be recorded in the Mandarin book. I hope that the two of you will treat each other with respect and enjoy the joy of fish and water forever. I hope that the two of you will help each other sincerely and make a vow to become a couple of Mandarin ducks." When Miracle Dr. Bailey's dignified voice resounded in the hall, an incomparably solemn atmosphere filled the hall. Everyone's expression was solemn as they looked at Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao with blessings in their eyes. They wanted to witness this sacred and romantic moment for the two of them. Countless young men and women looked at them with envy and yearning. Who didn't want to get married to their sweetheart on such a sacred occasion and say the vows of eternal love that had been repeated thousands of times in their hearts? Who didn't want to be a match made in heaven with their sweetheart and grow old together? Tonight, Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao, the perfect couple, had finally achieved their wish. How could they not be envious? After Miracle Dr. Bailey finished reading the marriage vows, he handed the two red and gilded marriage vows to Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao. Yun Yao's marriage vows would naturally be kept by her parents. Ji Tianqing's marriage vows had to be sent back to Tianjin region and handed to his father to get his approval. After all, the marriage of a child still needed the approval of their parents. This was the rule. After all the rules and ceremonies were over, Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao held the ceremonial tea that the maids had brought over and offered it to Yun Zhongqi and Bailey Ningsu. Yun Zhongqi and his wife were in a good mood and were gratified. They received the tea with smiles on their faces and drank it in front of everyone. After that, they said a few words of blessings. With that, the ceremony was completed. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao's marriage vows were set. From now on, Ji Tianqing was Yun Yao's fiancé and Yun Yao was his fiancé. As for when the two of them would get married, they would have to wait for the marriage vows to be sent back to the Tianjin region chief's mansion. Then, they would have to see how Ji Changkong and Yun Zhongqi would discuss it. Chapter 770. After the engagement ceremony ended, Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao left the main hall hand in hand. The guests inside and outside the main hall all applauded and cheered as they congratulated Yun Zhongqi and his wife. Tonight, Cloud's Spirit Palace had 3 joyous events. The atmosphere was joyous. Next, Yun Zhongqi was going to announce the 4th event. Now that the Duanmu family had suffered a great loss, they were only relying on their remaining resources to survive. The situation in Middle State was still chaotic and confusing. The herb business was almost half empty. Every city was short of elixirs and herbs. This caused the price of various elixirs and herbs to skyrocket. Cloud's Spirit Palace cared about the people of Middle State. They could not bear to see their fellow martial artists worried about this. At this time of chaos, Cloud's Spirit Palace was willing to step forward and take on the responsibility of protecting the peace of Middle State. Cloud's Spirit Palace would use all their resources to build elixir workshops. They would open medicine shops and pharmacies in every city to provide elixirs to the martial artists of Middle State. However, Cloud's Spirit Palace's ability was limited. They would not be able to cover all the cities in Middle State. Such an important matter of supporting the world requires the help of all the heroes present. Cloud's Spirit Palace sincerely invited all the powerful families to join in and work together to protect the peace of Middle State. Of course, this was just a pretentious excuse. Cloud's Spirit Palace had announced this to the world. Everyone knew Cloud's Spirit Palace's true intention. They wanted to use this opportunity to command all the heroes and take over the herb business market in Middle State. The Duanmu family had started with the elixir business and had not declined for thousands of years. The herb business was the Duanmu family's lifeline. Once Cloud's Spirit Palace took over, they would not be able to make a comeback. Cloud's Spirit Palace would not be able to take over all the herb business in Middle State. They needed the support and help of all the powerful families. Furthermore, the famous miracle Dr. Bailey would personally take charge of the situation and do his best to supervise this matter. The various powerful forces that were present tonight already knew about this news and had made up their minds to board the big ship that was Cloud's Soul Palace. After all, Cloud's Spirit Palace was one of the 3 big families. Its strength was not weaker than the Duanmu families. Furthermore, Miracle Dr. Bailey's reputation had spread across the continent. His medical skills were unparalleled. He was the absolute authority in the field of alchemy. With Miracle Dr. Bailey overseeing Cloud's Spirit Palace and personally overseeing the situation, what was there for everyone to be worried about? Cloud's Spirit Palace ate the meat, while they drank the soup. It was a great fortune and opportunity. Therefore, when Yun Zhongqi announced the news, all the powerful families and forces responded. The situation and the scene in the hall were truly overwhelming. Countless experts felt their blood boiling and were filled with excitement and anticipation. When Long Yun Shao also spoke and expressed his support for Cloud's Spirit Palace and offered help, the various experts became even more enthusiastic and enthusiastic. Following this, Yun Zhongqi and the powerful beings of the various forces discussed the next step of the plan. As early as 2 months ago, Cloud's Soul Palace had been preparing for this. In reality, Cloud's Spirit Palace had already secretly controlled the pill business in Central State's 100 cities and made many arrangements. More than 30 powerful forces had long since submitted to Cloud's Spirit Palace and were already busy handling this matter. Tonight, Yun Zhongqi was only telling everyone about this matter and inviting more factions to join. As for how to act, how to deploy and plan, it was all up to Cloud's Spirit Palace to decide. The various forces only needed to follow orders. Yun Zhongqi and the powerful beings of the various forces were discussing important matters in the hall. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao had already returned to Hefeng Garden. In any case, the two of them already knew what to do. It was all up to Yun Zhongqi to handle. There was no need for them to worry. In an exquisite and elegant room, the red candles flickered and the atmosphere was charming and warm. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao sat at the table with a cup of spiritual tea in front of them. Steam rose from the tea and it emitted a refreshing fragrance. The two of them looked at each other and their eyes were filled with tenderness. Their hearts were filled with love. Ji Tianqing held Yun Yao's hand and said with a gentle smile, "Yao Yao, this day has finally come. From today onwards, you are my fiancé. I hope that the marriage contract can be sent back to Tianshan region as soon as possible and get my father's approval. My father and Uncle Yun will discuss our wedding date. I can't wait to take you as my wife." Yun Yao smiled faintly and lowered her head slightly. Her fair and beautiful face was a little red. Perhaps it was because of the red candles or because she was shy. She was too embarrassed to say anything and only nodded slightly. At this moment, her beautiful face was flushed red and there was a hint of shyness in her gentleness. She was so beautiful that it could move one's soul. Ji Tianqing couldn't help but reach out his hands and pull her into his embrace. He lowered his head and kissed her thin lips. Even though Yun Yao was shy, she didn't avoid him. She closed her eyes and allowed him to kiss and comfort her gently. Even though her eyes were closed, she was still very nervous. Her long eyelashes were also trembling. The two of them hugged each other for a long time and didn't separate even after 15 minutes. Even though Yun Yao was as cold as ice, she melted in Ji Tianqing's gentleness and passion as she leaned on his shoulder. Just as the two of them were unable to separate from each other, a series of footsteps suddenly sounded from the courtyard outside the room. An armored guard captain rushed to the room with a serious expression and respectfully reported, "Eldest young miss, young Master Ji, the family head has ordered you to quickly go to the study room." Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao quickly separated and tidied up their slightly messy clothes. "Understood. You can leave now. We'll be there immediately." Ji Tianqing's voice was calm and dignified as he replied. After the guard captain left, Yun Yao frowned and asked in confusion, "What happened? Why is father urgently calling us to the study room? Did something happen?" Ji Tianqing also frowned. He had a bad premonition. "Let's go and see what's going on." After saying that, the two of them quickly left Hefeng Garden and rushed to Yun Zhongqi's study room. When the two of them arrived at the study room, they saw that there were already two people in the room. They were Yun Zhongqi and the son of heaven, Long Yunshao. The atmosphere was solemn and heavy. Long Yunshao had a worried expression on his face. Yun Zhongqi held a communication jade slip in his hand and frowned. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao walked into the study room and greeted the two of them. Then, they asked Yun Zhongqi, "Uncle, what happened?" Yun Zhongqi waved the communication jade slip in his hand and said with a serious expression, "Just now, Great Divine Master He Yu from the monarch residence personally sent me a communication jade slip. Something has happened in Central State City. Divine Master He Yu summoned the three of you back to the monarch residence immediately. He wants to entrust you with an important task." Although Divine Master He Yu didn't say what happened, from his tone, I'm afraid that this matter is very serious and urgent. Yun Zhongqi sighed and said in a serious tone, "Tianqing, Yao Yao, although tonight is the big day of your engagement, and you should be enjoying your time together. However, as the Emperor's sons, you must obey the orders of the monarch residence." Chapter 771. Ji Tianqing had originally planned to stay in Cloud Spirit Palace for 2 more days and return to Zhongzhou City after the birthday banquet. After all, he had just gotten engaged to Yun Yao, and he had just become Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. There were still many things that he had yet to settle. However, Divine Master He Yu had personally sent a message to Cloud Spirit Palace, urgently summoning them back to the monarch residence. Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, and Long Yunshao realized the urgency of the situation. They did not dare to waste any time and left Cloud Spirit Palace overnight, rushing back to Zhongzhou City. In order to rush back to the monarch residence as soon as possible, Long Yunxiao rode the double-headed golden dragon with Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao. As for heavenly consort and Suwen, she did not travel with the three of them. She was still in Cloud Spirit Palace. Long Yunxiao had brought her along with him, bringing along a guard of honor. After the birthday banquet in Cloud Spirit Palace ended, the guard of honor would naturally escort and Suwen back to the monarch residence. A day passed by quickly. The double-headed golden dragon rushed back with all its might and finally arrived at the monarch residence late at night on the second day. After returning to the monarch residence, Ji Tianqing, Long Yunxiao, and Yun Yao went straight to Divine Master He Yu's Black Feather Palace. In the Black Feather Palace, the spacious and simple main hall was dimly lit, and the atmosphere was solemn. Divine Master He Yu, who was dressed in a black robe and black hair, was sitting cross-legged in the main hall with a solemn expression. 10 steps in front of him stood 2 thearchs with extraordinary auras. Both of them were thearchs of the monster clan, a man and a woman. The young man was tall and burly, and his face was handsome and resolute. He wore a snow-white fox fur coat. The female thearch's face was extremely beautiful, and her figure was slim. Her temperament was foxy and enchanting. When Ji Tianqing, Long Yunxiao, and Yun Yao entered the main hall and saw the young man and woman, they were instantly puzzled. Kun Wu and Fox Princess are here too. Did Divine Master He Yu not only gather the 3 of us, but also the 2 of them? What the hell is going on? Why did Divine Master He Yu call all 5 of us back? There was no doubt that the young thearchs of the monster clan were Kun Wu and Fox Princess. The 3 of them were filled with doubts. They stopped 10 steps in front of Divine Master He Yu and bowed in unison. Greetings, Divine Master Black Feather. Divine Master He Yu raised his eyes and glanced at the 3 of them. He said in a dignified tone, "You guys came back very quickly and just in time. Since everyone is here, there's no time to lose. I'll get down to business." Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, Long Yunxiao, Kun Wu, and Fox Princess finally understood that God's sovereign Black Feather had only summoned the 5 of them. This also made them realize that what Divine Sage Black Feather was about to announce was not only urgent, but also somewhat special. Divine Expert Black Feather said with a solemn expression, "Just 10 days ago, an extremely strange thing happened in Central Continent City. Some of the heirs and young talents of the grand families had disappeared for no reason. A few days later, when they were found, all of their temperaments had changed greatly. They had become bloodthirsty, manic, insane, and delirious. They didn't even recognize their own family, and killed everyone they saw like mad demons. They cruelly murdered the people of their own families. Anyone who was killed by them would turn into a pile of white bones. Their deaths were extremely strange. Those rich and powerful families all had an impressive background and influence. They had great authority in Central Continent City. After this incident, the aristocratic families were at a loss of what to do and reported the matter to the city lord's mansion. The city lord's mansion's guards went to the various grand families to investigate, but they couldn't find any clues. Instead, they lost many elite guards. Once the guards got close to the mad young talents, they would be killed in a strange manner. Their deaths were the same as the others. Their flesh and blood had all dissipated, and they turned into a pile of white bones. Not even a drop of blood was left. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing, Long Yunxiao, and the others' expressions changed. They were filled with shock. At the same time, they also guessed Divine Master He Yu's meaning. Divine Master He Yu continued, "In these 10 days, similar things kept happening. Moreover, the people who went mad were all the young talents of the grand families of the human and demon clans. The grand families all had extraordinary statuses in Central Continent City. Those young disciples were all famous young talents in Central Continent City. After such a thing happened, the city lord's mansion had to think of a way to solve it. Otherwise, when the news spread, it would definitely cause chaos and panic in Central Continent City. However, the city lord's mansion couldn't find the reason or clues, so they reported this matter to the monarch's mansion. Therefore, this seat urgently ordered you to return and discuss this matter in person. Divine Master He Yu's dignified gaze swept across the faces of the 5 people. He said in a deep voice, "This matter concerns the stability of Central Continent City. The monarch's mansion has to solve it as soon as possible. After careful consideration, this seat has decided to let the 5 of you assist the city lord's mansion in investigating this matter. Do you have any objections?" Ji Tianqing, Kun Wu, and the others all understood that Divine Master He Yu naturally had his reasons for making such a decision. Yun Yao had the heavenly spirit's sacred body and was very sensitive to the aura of the various races. She was very suitable to participate in the investigation and would be very useful. Long Yun Shao was the emperor of the human race's imperial court. He represented the imperial court and should participate in this matter. Ji Tianqing was powerful and meticulous. He was also very familiar with Yun Yao and Long Yun Shao and had a tacit understanding with them. Of course, they had to act together. As for Kun Wu and Fox Princess, one was the prince of the monster race and the other was the first princess of the monster race. Since such a thing had happened, the 2 of them naturally had to shoulder this responsibility. No one had any objections to Divine Master He Yu's decision. They all nodded and swore to investigate this matter as soon as possible. Divine Master He Yu nodded in satisfaction. He took out 5 scrolls from his interspatial ring and handed them to everyone. These are the scrolls presented by the city lord's mansion. They record the information of the few aristocratic families and everything related to this matter. After you read them carefully, you should act as soon as possible. This seat has high hopes for all of you. I believe that all of you will not disappoint this seat." Ji Tianqing, Kun Wu, and the others quickly took the scrolls and put them away solemnly. Only then did they bow and bid farewell to Divine Master He Yu. After the 5 of them walked out of the Black Feather Palace, they stopped outside the gate and gathered together to discuss this matter. Kun Wu said with a solemn expression, "Just now, I roughly flipped through the scrolls. The few aristocratic families that were involved in this matter are all famous families in Central State City. They have a lot of prestige in the city. A few of the monster race aristocratic families are in the West District and a few of the human race aristocratic families are in the South District. Since that's the case, we should act separately. We should be able to find the clues and the results faster." Long Yun Shao nodded and expressed his agreement. "Kun Wu, Fox Princess, I'll leave the monster race aristocratic families to you too. The 3 of us will investigate the aristocratic families in the South District." Ji Tianqing said with a solemn tone, "Central State City is the holy land of martial arts. With the Emperor's mansion guarding this place, there are still people who dare to stir up trouble and stir up such a storm. If this matter is a conspiracy of some power, then the other party must have come prepared and their power is very strong. Everyone must be careful." Yun Yao thought for a moment and said with a cold voice, "From Divine Master He Yu's description, this matter is very likely related to the demon race." Chapter 772. Ji Tianqing, Kun Wu, and the others discussed for a while before they split up to take action. Kun Wu and Fox Princess were the first to leave for the West District of Zhongzhou City. Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, and Long Yun Shao flew toward the exit of the king's mansion, heading toward the South District. After 2 hours, they left the king's mansion and arrived at the South District. During this time, Ji Tianqing used his spiritual sense to read the files and came up with a preliminary plan. Currently, 3 families are in trouble. The one closest to us is the Tang family. Let's go to the Tang family to check the situation." Long Yun Shao and Yun Yao nodded in agreement and followed him to the Tang family. On the way to the Tang family, Ji Tianqing introduced the situation of the Tang family to them. The Tang family is a grand family that has been passed down for more than 400 years. They make a living by forging weapons and are very prestigious in Zhongzhou City. Moreover, the Tang family cooperates with the city lord's mansion to provide weapons and equipment for the city guards. The current head of the Tang family, Tang Yelong, is a distinguished guest of the city lord's mansion and has a good relationship with the city lord. This man is generous and humble. He has a good reputation in Zhongzhou City and is highly respected. Tang Yelong has 3 sons and 2 daughters. They are all outstanding young talents. Among them, the eldest son, Tang Shu, has the most outstanding talent and is highly regarded by Tang Yelong. He will inherit the position of head of the Tang family in the future. Tang Shu is only 24 years old, but he has reached Sky Origin Stage 1. He has the chance to enter the king's mansion. However, he is the one who is in trouble this time. After listening to Ji Tianqing's introduction, Yun Yao and Long Yunxiao sighed and felt pity. After 15 minutes, the three of them arrived at the gate of the Tang family's mansion. The Tang family's mansion occupied a vast area with a radius of 1,000 meters. It was very luxurious and solemn. After Long Yunxiao explained his identity and purpose to the guards at the gate, the guards immediately knelt down and saluted him. Someone then entered the mansion to report. After a while, a tall and sturdy middle-aged man with a dignified square face rushed to the gate to greet them. Tang Yelong respectfully welcomes the emperor and the two imperial princes. Your presence brings light to my humble abode. Tang Yelong bowed respectfully, a look of fear and trepidation on his face. Long Yunxiao slightly nodded as he raised his hand and said, Tang family head, please dispense with the formalities. You should already know the purpose of our visit. This sovereign and the two princes have come to the Tang mansion to resolve this matter. Of course, Tang Yelong understood what he meant. He nodded excitedly and said, Thank you, Your Highness, and the two princes. You came just in time. Right now, everyone in the mansion is in a state of panic. If I hadn't forbidden the news to be spread, I'm afraid it would have already spread. Sirs, please come in. Let's have a chat. The situation was urgent, so Ji Tianqing and Long Yunxiao didn't waste any time. They just wanted to see Tang Shuqing's situation with their own eyes. Tang family head, there's no need for those unnecessary formalities. Time is of the essence. Why don't you take us to see your son directly? As you command, Your Majesty. Tang Yelong naturally had no objections, and promptly cupped his hands in obeisance. He led Ji Tianqing's group of three into the Tang mansion, passing through the many courtyards and rushing to the backyard. Along the way, they passed by 3 courtyards and saw the Tang family members, guards, and servants. All of them looked distressed and worried. The entire Tang mansion was filled with a thick, gloomy and oppressive atmosphere that made one's heart heavy. When they arrived at the backyard, the whole place was quiet and there wasn't even a single guard or servant. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing and Long Yunxiao were puzzled and asked Tang Yelong what was going on. Tang Yelong quickly explained, Sirs, my son is imprisoned in the dungeon, but he can only be imprisoned for a while. He can escape at any time and start a massacre in the mansion. In order to avoid more casualties, I ordered the guards and servants to withdraw from the backyard. No one else is allowed to approach. But even so, I have to personally go to the dungeon every 2 hours to check if my son has broken free from his shackles. Tang Yelong's words made Ji Tianqing, Long Yunxiao, and Long Yunxiao feel a trace of heaviness and sadness. The situation was much more serious and complicated than they had imagined. Soon, they arrived at the entrance of the dungeon. Tang Yelong ordered 4 elite guards to guard the entrance while he personally led Ji Tianqing's group of 3 into the dungeon. The dungeon built by the Tang family was located 100 meters underground. It was built with indestructible black stones and was also set up with a Heaven Origin defensive formation. Ji Tianqing's group of 3 followed Tang Yelong into the underground and came to a spacious hall. The floor and walls of the hall were made of black stones, exuding a solemn and cold aura. More than a dozen gemstone lamps were lit on the surrounding walls, shining with a dazzling brilliance and illuminating the entire hall. Tang Yelong led the 3 to the center of the hall. He pointed at a refined iron grate under his feet and said, My son is imprisoned in that cell below. Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, and Long Yunxiao lowered their heads and looked at the square refined iron grate on the ground, which looked like a gate. They saw that there was indeed a cold cell under the grate, which was about 10 meters square, with a dim yellow light inside. There was a black iron chain as thick as an arm on the northern wall of the cell. A young man in a brocade robe, with disheveled hair, was chained to it. The young man was Tang Yelong's eldest son, Tang Shuqing. He was struggling with all his might, pulling the cold iron chain on the wall, making clanking noises. Deep scratches were left on the wall made of black stones by his 10 fingers. The black iron chain nailed to the wall was also loosened by his tugging, causing many cracks to appear on the stone wall. He was roaring in a muffled voice, like a wild beast that had gone mad. He roared furiously from time to time. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed that this crazy murderer was actually a graceful and elegant young master. Ji Tianqing stared at Tang Shucheng for a while and then said to Tang Yelong in a deep voice, "Patriarch Tang, please tell us the details of this matter." Tang Yelong's mood was very heavy. He quickly said, "My 3 lords, my son went missing in the city 8 days ago. 5 days ago, the mansion's guards found him in a street in the southern part of the city. At that time, he looked normal and wasn't injured, but his clothes were ragged and he was taciturn. The guards brought him back to the mansion, but that night, his temperament greatly changed. He suddenly had a demonic nature and killed more than a dozen guards and maids in his courtyard. When I arrived, I only saw a lot of clothes and piles of bones on the ground. There wasn't even a trace of blood. After I subdued my son myself, I found a doctor to treat him. Who would have thought that the doctor's flesh and blood would melt and he would turn into a pile of bones as soon as he touched him? I had no choice but to imprison my son in the dungeon in the backyard." After listening to Tang Yelong's story, Yunyao was keenly aware of a problem. She asked, "Patriarch Tang, the doctor's flesh and blood melted and he turned into a pile of bones after touching your son? So to say, your son needs to touch others when he goes mad and kills people?" Tang Yelong was stunned for a moment. After recalling for a while, he shook his head and explained, "Your Highness, that's not the case. After I imprisoned my son in the dungeon, I chained him up with cold iron chains and sealed his acupoints and cultivation to prevent him from going mad and killing people again. Who would have thought that he would go even crazier the next afternoon? He was like a madman and his strength was so great that he broke the cold iron chains. The guards in the dungeon were 10 steps away from him, but they were strangely killed by him and turned into piles of bones. My 3 lords, my son, Tang Shucheng, is my most beloved eldest son and the most outstanding son of my Tang family." Chapter 773. Tang Yelong's tone was full of sorrow and helplessness. Ji Tianqing, Yunyao, and the other 2 could understand his feelings. Anyone who saw their most beloved son turn out like this would also be incomparably grieved and exhausted. Tang Yelong was a very courageous person to be able to remain calm and deal with this matter decisively, not letting the Tang family fall into chaos. However, Ji Tianqing and the other 2 couldn't find any clues after observing through the grate for a while. Tang Shucheng, who was in the cell, had been roaring angrily and struggling desperately to break free from the iron chains. He was like an enraged beast that was about to devour its prey, exuding a ferocious and bloodthirsty aura all over his body. Other than that, they couldn't see anything else. Yunyao frowned and observed for a while. Then, she said to Tang Yelong, "Patriarch Tang, can you tell me in detail the scene when your son went crazy and killed people? How did he turn them into bones?" This. Tang Yelong was stunned and didn't know how to describe and explain it. He thought for a while and immediately had an idea. Then, he said to Yunyao, "Your Highness, please wait for a moment." After saying that, he turned and left the hall and gave an order to the guard outside the dungeon. After a while, he returned to Ji Tianqing and the other 2. A middle-aged guard in armor followed behind him. The middle-aged guard was holding a food box in his hand. He bowed his head respectfully and fearfully, not daring to breathe loudly. Tang Yelong pointed to the cell under his feet and ordered in a dignified voice, "Send this supper to the eldest young master." When the middle-aged guard heard this, his body suddenly shook. His eyes widened in horror and his whole body trembled. "Master, the middle-aged guard was obviously full of fear and instinctively wanted to refuse. However, Tang Yelong looked at him with a dignified expression and an invisible pressure was generated. He shouted in a deep voice, "This is an order." After saying that, he reached out and opened a door on the fine iron grate, revealing a stone staircase below. How could the middle-aged guard dare to disobey the patriarch's order? He hesitated for a moment and could only brace himself. Trembling with fear, he passed through the grate and walked down the stone staircase to the cell below. There were only 20 steps, but he used 100 breaths of time to walk through them and enter the dimly lit prison cell. Tang Shucheng, who was chained to the wall, immediately raised his head and glared at him. He licked his lips with a bloodthirsty expression. Ah! Ah! Tang Shucheng let out a muffled growl, as excited and manic as a wild beast that was about to hunt. The middle-aged guard was so scared that his legs went soft. His whole body was trembling like a sieve. He slowly moved closer to Tang Shucheng. Young master. This is the supper that old master asked me to deliver to you. The middle-aged guard walked until he was 10 steps away from Tang Shucheng. He didn't dare to come any closer. He hurriedly threw the food box on the ground and said in a trembling voice. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Tang Shucheng pounced on him like a tiger pouncing on a sheep. Clank, clank, clank. Several iron chains were pulled taut. Tang Shu was like a hungry wolf pouncing on its prey. He opened his mouth and let out a manic roar. His whole body was emitting a cold and terrifying aura. Shwa! The middle-aged guard was immediately enveloped by a dark red mist. His skin and flesh melted and disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. He turned into a dark red blood mist and flew into Tang Shucheng's open mouth. The middle-aged guard stood where he was. He couldn't move or resist. He couldn't even make a sound. In just a few breaths, all the flesh on his body melted and turned into a dark red blood mist, which was completely devoured by Tang Shucheng. He was ordered to deliver supper to Tang Shucheng, but he had become Tang Shucheng's supper. Clank, clank. The middle-aged guard turned into a pile of white bones. He was wrapped in black armor and fell to the ground. There wasn't even a drop of blood on the cold floor of the prison cell. Such a horrifying scene caused everyone to be filled with astonishment, and their expressions became extremely unsightly. Even though Ji Tianqing, Long Yunxiao, and Yun Yao were experienced and knowledgeable, they had never seen such a horrifying scene. So that's how it is. His killing methods are indeed strange and terrifying. Long Yunxiao sucked in a breath of cold air. His eyes flashed with a cold light. Tang Shucheng's mutation is most likely related to the demon race. Yun Yao's face was cold. She said in an icy tone, only the demon race has such cruel and vicious methods. As she spoke, she hurriedly used a secret technique. She used the talent of the heavenly spirit's sacred body to investigate Tang Shucheng in the prison cell. She saw Tang Shucheng use a secret technique similar to the demon race. She was basically sure that Tang Shucheng's mutation was related to the demon race. However, when she used the secret technique to investigate, she found that there was only a trace of blood in the prison cell. There was no aura of the demon race. There was no aura of the demon race on Tang Shucheng's body, nor was there any sign of him being demonized. This result immediately caused her to frown and reveal a puzzled expression. How can there be no aura of the demon race? He killed the innocent like a madman. What he used was clearly the demon race's method. Yun Yao believed that there was no problem with her heavenly spirit's sacred body bloodline. Then, the problem must be with Tang Shucheng. There was definitely a big problem with Tang Shucheng. At this time, Tang Shucheng became more and more violent after devouring the middle-aged guard's blood mist. Ah, ah, ah. He roared like a madman. His body twisted with all his might. He burst out with an incomparably tyrannical strength and struggled with all his might. Several thick iron chains were twisted and deformed. They creaked, and cracks continuously appeared on the stone walls. Looking at his posture, it wouldn't be long before he could break the iron chains and escape from the prison cell. Tang Yelong's expression became serious. He hurriedly explained to Ji Tianqing and the other two, "These days, my son has been imprisoned in the dungeon. However, every 1 or 2 days, he would go berserk to the extreme, and become extremely powerful. I sealed his acupoints and cultivation, but it didn't work. Even suppressing him with a formation didn't work. He could still break free and escape from the prison cell. He started a massacre in the mansion. These days, more than 80 people in the mansion have been killed by him. After Tang Yelong finished speaking, Long Yunxiao looked at him indifferently and asked in a deep voice, Tang Shucheng has killed more than 80 people. Why didn't you put him to death earlier? Tang Yelong lowered his head in fear and trepidation. He hurriedly explained, Your Majesty, Shucheng is my most beloved eldest son. He's also the most promising one. He's the hope of our Tang family. How can I bear to kill my most beloved son? Moreover, he only became like this because he met with an accident. If we can find out the truth and the reason, maybe he can return to normal. In short, Tang Yelong couldn't bear to kill his most beloved son. He still had a lot of hope to see Tang Shucheng return to his original state. Tang Shucheng's life is a life. Don't tell me that other people's lives are not. Long Yunxiao frowned and angrily shouted in a dignified tone. Tang Yelong's expression changed. He immediately wanted to kneel and beg for mercy. Chapter 774. Hearing Ji Tianqing's words, Long Yunxiao and Yunyao changed their expressions. No. You can't go down there. It's too dangerous. Tianqing, calm down. Tang Shucheng's condition is too weird. Both of them tried to persuade him. They looked worried. Tang Yelong was also anxious. He waved his hand and said, My lord, please don't get close to my son. It's too dangerous. When my son got rid of the shackles, I had to ask the elders to help me catch him. But even so, the elders of the Tang family were killed by my son one after another. As the head of the Tang clan, Tang Yelong was quite powerful. He had reached the 5th level of the Sky Origin stage and was quite powerful. The elders of the Tang clan were at the 2nd or 3rd level of the Sky Origin stage, but they were still devoured by Tang Shucheng and turned into a pile of bones. From this, it could be seen that Tang Shucheng's strength in a berserk state was truly terrifying to the extreme. The three of them tried to persuade him. Ji Tianqing smiled confidently. He waved his hand and said, Don't worry. I'll be fine. If I don't observe him, how can I find the clues and find out the truth? Yunyao heard his firm tone. She said without hesitation, Tianqing, I'll go down with you. Long Yunxiao said hurriedly, I'll go down with you, too, in case of any accident. Ji Tianqing pointed at the cell under his feet and shook his head. The cell is too small. Too many people will get in the way. Don't worry. I'm sure I can get out safely. With that, he stepped through the iron door in the grill and walked down the black stone steps into the dark cell. Tang Shucheng, who was in a frenzy, became more excited when he saw Qin Haodong in the cell. He was like a hungry wolf seeing a lamb. Ah! Tang Shucheng roared at the top of his voice. He waved his arms and kicked his feet. He was eager to attack Ji Tianqing. However, he couldn't get close to Ji Tianqing because of the cold iron chains that bound his limbs and waist. Ji Tianqing slowly walked towards Tang Shucheng. His sharp eyes stared at Tang Shucheng as he carefully observed him. There's no demonic aura around his body. His eyes are normal, and there's no redness. His skin and nails don't show any signs of being demonized. As Ji Tianqing observed, he silently calculated in his heart. He observed very carefully, even Tang Shucheng's fingernails, skin, and hair, so as not to miss any clues. Finally, when he was 10 steps away from Tang Shucheng's eyes glowed with excitement. Ah! Tang Shucheng pounced at him with all his might. He opened his mouth as wide as he could and spat out a dark red mist that swept towards him. In that instant, Ji Tianqing only felt an icy cold wind assault his body. He felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, and even his blood was about to freeze. Not only that, but the dark red mist that Tang Shucheng spat out also carried a nauseating stench. Ji Tianqing knew very well that it was this dark red mist that could melt a person's flesh and blood into a bloody mist after enveloping them. He had personally witnessed the process of the middle-aged guard being devoured, so he was already prepared. How could he let Tang Shucheng have his way? When the dark red mist attacked him, he changed his footsteps and dodged it in a flash. Swoosh! The mysterious and eerie dark red mist brushed past Ji Tianqing and missed him. Ji Tianqing was unharmed. He immediately activated the third eye on his forehead and continued to observe with the thunder spirit eyes. Tang Shucheng became even more furious and manic. He pounced and struggled like a ferocious beast. He continuously spat out dark red mist from his mouth, wanting to devour Ji Tianqing's flesh and blood. Ji Tianqing's feet moved in a mysterious footwork and dodged as fast as lightning. His figure became blurry and hazy, leaving behind afterimages in the secret room. Tang Shucheng attacked him more than a dozen times and spat out more than a dozen mouthfuls of dark red mist, but he still failed to hit him. Ji Tianqing was still unharmed. He even took the opportunity to observe Tang Shucheng thoroughly. He finally found a clue. Therefore, he retreated to the edge of the cell and stood still 30 steps away from Tang Shucheng. This distance was safe. Tang Shucheng roared angrily and manically, but he no longer attacked. Ji Tianqing frowned and pondered. He recalled the scene when the Devil Emperor was born in the sky-bearing sect. After a while, he suddenly understood something, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. He looked up at the ceiling of the cell and looked at Yun Yao and Long Yun Shao through the bars. He said in a low voice, "I think I know what happened. Yao Yao, do you still remember how I severely injured the Devil Emperor when we had a battle of life and death? After the Devil Emperor was seriously injured, he had to devour the Blood Demon King's flesh and soul to have the strength to escape." Yun Yao nodded and said, "That's right. I remember it clearly." Long Yun Shao also frowned and asked, "Tianqing, what did you find?" Ji Tianqing pointed at Tang Shucheng and said in a low voice, "Just now, he spat out dark red mist to devour my flesh and blood. I saw a ball of blood-black energy surging in his throat. I'm not unfamiliar with that kind of dark red mist. When the Devil Emperor devoured the Blood Demon King, he used that kind of power." Long Yun Shao and Yun Yao changed their expressions when they heard this. Their eyes became very serious. It's related to the Devil Emperor. No wonder a noble young master has become a murderous maniac. He's so cruel and bloodthirsty. Ji Tianqing nodded and continued, "Tang Shucheng used to be a normal person. He was only at the first level of Sky Origin stage. Now, he's become like a demon, and his power has increased several times. I suspect that there's some demon hiding in his body that made him like this." After listening to his analysis, Long Yun Shao and Yun Yao thought for a while and nodded to show that they agreed. When Tang Yelong heard the words Devil Emperor and demon, he realized the seriousness of the matter. He became even more worried and anxious. "What should we do? Prince Tianqing, please save my son." Long Yun Shao and Yun Yao looked at Ji Tianqing expectantly and asked, "Tianqing, do you have any ideas?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said to Tang Yelong seriously, "Master Tang, we were ordered to investigate this matter. If I want to find out the truth and the reason, I have to do one thing for your son. However, I can't guarantee your son's life. He may be saved because of this, but he may also lose his life because of it." Tang Yelong hesitated. He looked very embarrassed and couldn't make a decision. Shucheng's nature is not bad. He became like this because he was killed by the Devil Emperor. He's the hope of our Tang clan. He's my son. I can't let him die like this. Long Yun Shao frowned and said seriously, "Master Tang, Tang Shucheng has become like this. He has lost his mind and humanity. He killed the innocent. How is he different from a demon?" Chapter 775. Long Yun Xiao's words made Tang Yelong fall into silence. He hesitated for a moment and finally made up his mind. "Sigh. I'll do as you say, son of heaven." He sighed and looked at Tang Shucheng in the cell. He said in a complicated tone, "Son, I'm sorry, but I can't let you kill more people. Life and death are predestined. Maybe this is your fate. After saying that, Tang Yilong turned around. He couldn't bear to see his son die so miserably. In the cell, Tang Shucheng was still struggling madly, trying to break free from the shackles of the iron chain. Ji Tianqing made up his mind and walked toward Tang Shucheng. Tang Shucheng's eyes suddenly turned cold. He became even more bloodthirsty and violent and was about to pounce on him. After 2 breaths, he was 10 steps away from Tang Shucheng. Tang Shucheng immediately pounced and spat out a dark red mist from his mouth. Ji Tianqing was already prepared. The moment Tang Shucheng opened his mouth, his figure flashed and rushed a few meters to the right. The dark red mist swept over, but it fell into the air and didn't touch him. Tang Shucheng became even more violent and angry. He struggled with the iron chain and made a clattering sound. He opened his mouth again and spat out a dark red mist toward Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing quickly dodged. His figure flickered and changed repeatedly with a mysterious footwork. In just 2 short breaths, he dodged 3 of Tang Shucheng's attacks and rushed behind Tang Shucheng like a ghost. At this moment, Tang Shucheng was about to turn around and attack him. He raised his right palm without hesitation and urged the mysterious black hole in his palm to slap Tang Shucheng's back. The distance between the two of them was too close, and Ji Tianqing's palm was too fast for Tang Shucheng to dodge. Bam! With a muffled sound, Ji Tianqing's right palm slapped Tang Shucheng's back fiercely. Puff! Tang Shucheng spat out a mouthful of blood and was almost sent flying. However, several cold iron chains bound him and the mysterious black hole in Ji Tianqing's right palm was also swallowing him. He was enveloped by an invisible mysterious power, and his body was frozen in place, completely powerless to resist. A mysterious and cold black light invaded his body and was pulling something out of his body. The incomparable pain caused him to bare his fangs and brandish his claws as he struggled, letting out heart-wrenching screams. Tang Yilong, who was sitting on top of the cell, heard his son's miserable screams. His heart tightened and he was extremely worried. Fortunately, Tang Shucheng's screams stopped abruptly after a while. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of black blood. He could no longer bear the intense pain and fainted. His body slumped to the ground, and he no longer had any signs of life. Ji Tianqing slowly withdrew his right hand and stared at his palm with a solemn expression. There was a golden ball of light the size of a fist in his palm. Inside the ball of light was a strange purplish-black insect the size of an index finger. The strange worm's shape, length, and thickness were all about the size of his index finger. Its entire body was purplish-black, and it seemed to have grown a layer of hard carapace and densely packed spikes. Its head was as sharp as an arrowhead, and 2 rows of sharp teeth could be seen when it opened its mouth. Ji Tianqing stared at the strange purplish-black insect for a while, but he couldn't recognize what it was. The strange purplish-black insect was struggling violently inside the golden ball of light. It kept tumbling and hitting the ball of light, trying to escape the confinement of the golden ball of light. In fact, it could even devour the true essence of the golden ball of light and bite out rows of holes in it. Ji Tianqing could only continuously transfer his true essence to repair the holes in the ball of light and trap the strange purplish-black insect inside. He glanced at the unconscious Tang Shucheng. Seeing that Tang Shucheng was still alive, he turned around and left the cell. After he went through the fine iron bars and returned to the hall of the dungeon, Long Yunxiao and Yunyao immediately surrounded him. Tianqing, what's that? A strange insect? Is this the monster you were talking about? The 2 of them frowned and stared at the strange purplish-black insect, showing a surprised expression. Unfortunately, the 2 of them couldn't recognize what the strange purplish-black insect was. Yunyao used the secret technique of the celestial spirit's sacred body to investigate and immediately found that the strange purplish-black insect contained a very powerful demonic aura. There was no doubt that it was an evil demon insect. Ji Tianqing said with a solemn expression, "This purplish-black insect is very powerful. Tang Shucheng's mutation was caused by it. We need to bring it back to the monarch mansion and hand it over to Divine Teacher Heiyu. Divine Teacher Heiyu is very knowledgeable. He might know what it is." Okay. Yun Yao and Long Yunxiao quickly nodded in agreement. Long Yunxiao took out a treasure box from his interspatial ring and put the purplish-black insect inside. The treasure box was specially made and extremely sturdy. No matter how strong the purplish-black insect was, it couldn't escape from it. Ji Tianqing saw that Tang Yelong was full of fear and worry, but he didn't dare to interrupt. He said, "Patriarch Tang, your son is not dead. He's just unconscious. Please heal him as soon as possible, but don't let him out. Keep him in the dungeon and observe him for a while." After that, Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao quickly left the dungeon. Tang Yelong sent the three of them out of the dungeon and quickly went to check on Tang Shuqing's injuries. After 2 hours, Ji Tianqing and the other two returned to the monarch mansion. It was already dawn, and there was a faint light in the sky. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao didn't dare to waste any time. They quickly rushed to the Black Feather Palace to report to Divine Teacher He Yu. Divine Teacher He Yu was still sitting in the cold and solemn hall. He was meditating with his eyes closed and quietly waiting for the news. "Greetings, Divine Teacher He Yu." The three of them walked into the hall and bowed respectfully to Divine Teacher He Yu. Divine Teacher He Yu opened his eyes and looked at the three of them with a look of anticipation. He asked, "You're back so soon. Did you find any clues?" Long Yunxiao took out a treasure box from his interspatial ring and presented it to Divine Teacher He Yu with both hands. "Divine Teacher He Yu, fortunately, we didn't let you down. We've found the key clue. There's a strange purplish-black insect here. Tianqing found it in the body of the Tang family's young master. We suspect that the Tang family's young master's mutation is caused by this insect." "A purplish-black insect?" Divine Teacher He Yu raised his eyebrows and quickly took the treasure box and opened it. When he opened the lid of the treasure box, the purplish-black insect was like a black stream of light. It rushed out of the treasure box as fast as lightning, trying to escape. However, Divine Teacher He Yu clenched his fist and released an invisible spiritual energy. He wrapped the purplish-black insect and brought it back to him. No matter how the purplish-black insect struggled and twisted its body, it couldn't escape from the restraint of the spiritual energy. Divine Teacher He Yu stared at the purplish-black insect for a moment and suddenly understood something. A glint flashed across his eyes. Ji Tianqing and Long Yunxiao were about to ask what the purplish-black insect was. At this moment, two figures flew in from outside the hall. They were Kuan Wu and Fox Princess. The two of them quickly walked into the hall and bowed to Divine Teacher He Yu. "Greetings, Divine Teacher He Yu. We've returned to report to you. This is the clue we found. We found a purplish-black insect in the victim's body." As she spoke, Kuan Wu took out a crystal box that contained the purplish-black insect and presented it to Divine Teacher He Yu. Divine Teacher He Yu accepted the crystal box and took out the purplish-black insect. The two purplish-black insects were wrapped in spiritual energy. They floated in the air and struggled with all their might. Everyone looked at Divine Teacher He Yu with burning eyes. They were all looking forward to it. Divine Teacher He Yu said with a grave expression, "You guessed right. This purplish-black insect is the culprit." Chapter 776. Demonic Goo. Ji Tianqing, Kuan Wu, and the others immediately revealed puzzled expressions. They were quite puzzled. Long Yunxiao suddenly thought of something and said, "I have read in the history books that some ancient tribes in the southern wilderness have mastered the mysterious art of goo poison. It is said that those experts who have mastered the art of goo poison can silently plant goo poison in other people's bodies. Those who have been poisoned will be fine for a short period of time, but on a certain date, the poison will take effect and they will die. Divine Master, is this demonic goo similar to the art of goo poison?" As the son of heaven, Long Yunxiao had read many books since he was young. Of course, he was knowledgeable and had a good memory. Everyone stared at Divine Master He Yu, waiting for him to explain. Divine Master He Yu nodded slightly and said calmly, "What the Son of Heaven said is true. Some ancient tribes in the southern wilderness have mastered the mysterious art of goo poison. It is a vicious secret art that can kill without leaving a trace. It is impossible to guard against it. These two demonic goo are similar to the mysterious art of goo poison. They are both planted in other people's bodies by the person who planted the goo. However, the art of goo poison mostly uses poison and venomous insects to take people's lives. These two demonic goo are not used to kill people, but to absorb the power of the flesh and soul. Divine Master He Yu's words made Long Yun Xiao, Kun Wu, and the rest change their expressions. Ji Tianqing frowned and muttered to himself, when the demonic emperor was injured by me, he absorbed the flesh and soul of the blood demon king to recover his strength and escape. My guess was right. These two demonic venomous insects are related to the demon emperor. Thinking of this, his expression became more serious. He asked Divine Master He Yu, Divine Master, how does this demonic goo absorb the power of the flesh and soul? Divine Master He Yu nodded slightly and said in a serious tone, this demonic goo is very mysterious and very rare. Only the experts of the monarch mansion and the various imperial courts know about it. The person who planted the goo would plant the demonic goo in the young talents of the various aristocratic families. The power of the young talent's flesh and soul would become the nourishment for the demonic goo. Moreover, the person who was poisoned by the demonic goo would have a great change in temperament. They would go on a killing spree and kill the innocent. When they killed innocent people, the demonic venomous insects would devour the flesh, blood, and soul of the innocent people who died unjustly. It was precisely because of this that the flesh and blood of those who were cruelly killed would melt and turn into a pile of white bones. The demonic goo absorbed the power of flesh, blood, and soul. As it grew stronger, it also provided a steady stream of power to the demonic goo master. Therefore, the goal of the person who planted these demonic goo was to absorb flesh, blood, and soul essence to quickly increase their strength. After hearing Divine Sovereign He Yu's explanation, Long Yun Xiao, Kunwu, and the other three revealed expressions of shock. The poison goo actually has such an effect. Isn't this too unbelievable? The demonic goo can actually help Master increase his strength quickly. What an unimaginable and unheard of demonic means. Ji Tianqing frowned. After thinking for a moment, his expression suddenly changed. Normal heaven origin stage experts would not be able to detect such a vicious demonic parasite. To be able to use such a vicious method and desperately want to recover his strength, the ancient demonic emperor. I have seen the power and aura of these demonic goo on the demonic emperor before. These demonic goo must be his. He fled back to his nest in the northern desert after suffering great losses and has been desperately trying to recover his strength. He must have planted these demonic goo to recover his strength. Long Yun Xiao, Yun Yao, Kun Wu, and Fox Princess were all stunned. Then, their expressions changed drastically. The ancient demonic emperor. If he is the owner of the demonic goo, then we are in big trouble. Damn it! The young talents of the big families have all been poisoned and many innocent people have been killed. We have to solve this as soon as possible. Otherwise, the ancient demonic emperor will be able to use the demonic goo to continuously absorb energy and quickly recover his strength. Fox Princess did not speak. After pondering in silence for a moment, she shook her head and said, Ji Tianqing, your analysis makes sense. These demonic goo might belong to the ancient demonic emperor. But if that is the case, then hasn't the ancient demonic emperor already infiltrated Zhongzhou city? He is a notorious demonic emperor. He actually planted demonic goo all over Zhongzhou city. Isn't he afraid that his whereabouts will be exposed and he will be besieged by various powerful figures? Before Ji Tianqing could speak, Divine Master Black Feather explained, Fox Princess, the owner of the demonic goo is very likely to be the ancient demonic emperor. However, he does not need to come to Zhongzhou city personally to plant demonic goo. He can order the demonic kings under his command to bring his demonic goo to Zhongzhou city and choose targets to plant on. This way, he can continue to recover his strength while hiding in his nest in the northern desert. This is the strange and magical part of the demonic goo. Fox Princess's eyes widened in disbelief. How is this possible? How can there be such an unimaginable method in this world? Yun Yao's expression was cold as she said in a serious tone, the ancient demonic emperor is a demonic emperor from 1,000 years ago. How can we imagine how despicable and sinister his methods are? Now is not the time to discuss this. Moreover, we don't know how many demonic clans have infiltrated the city and are planting demonic goo everywhere. The most important thing right now is to find those demonic clans that are secretly planting demonic goo and get rid of these demonic goo as soon as possible. Ji Tianqing and Long Yunxiao both nodded in agreement. That's right. The demonic clans are secretly causing trouble, we have to stop them with all our might. Otherwise, as more and more people are planted with demonic goo, Zhongzhou City will fall into chaos sooner or later. We have to get rid of these demonic goo as soon as possible. We cannot let the demonic emperor use this chance to recover his strength. Everyone was getting closer and closer to the truth. Their hearts were filled with anger and hatred for a common enemy. Divine Master Black Feather also frowned and said in a heavy tone, "That damned ancient demonic emperor. We did not eliminate him, but he still dares to send people to stir up trouble in Zhongzhou City. If he recovers his peak strength, it will be bad." Everyone thought that the demonic emperor would need at least 10 years to recover his strength after fleeing back to his nest in the northern desert. Only then would he be able to stir up trouble in the continent. However, no one expected that in less than a year, the demonic emperor would start stirring up trouble again. Even though he was in the northern desert, he was able to use the demonic goo to create havoc in Zhongzhou City. It was obvious that the demonic emperor was ready to make a move. He was going to stir up a storm of blood. Thinking of this, everyone's hearts sank. A layer of haze silently covered their hearts. At this time, Divine Master Black Feather looked at everyone with a dignified gaze and ordered in a deep voice, "The 5 of you, listen to my orders. Continue to investigate this matter in Zhongzhou City. You must find those demonic clans that have infiltrated the city and planted demonic goo everywhere and kill them all. I will inform the city lord's mansion and have them assist you in the investigation." Chapter 777. Ji Tianqing, Kun Wu, and the others naturally obeyed Divine Master He Yu's order. Everyone acknowledged Divine Master He Yu's order and left the Black Feather Palace with a bow. As for the 2 demonic insects they found, Divine Master He Yu didn't destroy them and kept them carefully. He wanted to study them carefully and see if he could find any clues and ways to restrain them from the demonic insects. Ji Tianqing, Kun Wu, and the others parted ways after leaving the Black Feather Palace. Kun Wu and Foxy moved together and continued to investigate the west district of Zhongzhou City. Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, and Long Yunxiao were still investigating the south district. The 3 of them flew across the sky as fast as lightning and discussed their next plan while hurrying on their way. Long Yunxiao suggested, "We've already been to the Tang family. Do you want to go to the other 2 families?" Yunyao nodded in agreement. "Since we know that the demonic insects are the cause of the changes, let's go to those 2 families and remove the demonic insects." Ji Tianqing frowned and thought for a while. Then, he said in a deep voice, "We'll go to those 2 families first. After removing the demonic insects, we'll find a way to find the culprit." The culprit's target is very clear. They're targeting the young elites of the prestigious families. There are 7 first-rate aristocratic families in the South District, and 3 of them are already in trouble. If the culprit continues to sow demonic insects, it's very likely that they'll target the other 4 families. We can wait for them to come. Long Yunxiao and Yunyao thought for a while and immediately nodded in agreement after hearing his idea and plan. Not long after, the 3 of them left the monarch mansion and returned to Zhongzhou City. The 3 of them quickly rushed to the South District and began to carry out their plan. They first went to the other 2 families and found the young elites who had been implanted with demonic insects and removed the demonic insects from their bodies. With the previous experience, Ji Tianqing's removal of the demonic insects was much easier and smoother. He used the mysterious black hole in his right palm to suck the demonic insects out and sealed them in a special magic treasure box. At noon, the 3 of them completed the first step of their plan. They removed the demonic insects from the 3 young elites of the 2 families. Then, the 3 of them split up and went to their respective families. Yunyao went to the wealthy Xia family on Lulua Street alone. She secretly observed the Xia family's movements and probed for the aura of the demon clan. Long Yunxiao rushed to the wealthy Qin family and secretly snuck into the Qin family to search for traces of the devil race. He was waiting for the person who had planted the goo worms to appear. As for Ji Tianqing, he went to the powerful Zheng family. The Zheng family's mansion was called Upright Star Court. It was a mansion with a vast terrain and a quiet and secluded illusion. Ji Tianqing used a little trick to disguise himself as a guard and successfully sneaked into Zhengxing court, silently observing the Zheng family's situation. The Zheng family was a martial arts aristocratic family with a heritage of more than 600 years. Not only were they flourishing with many descendants, but they had also produced many martial arts geniuses. Among this generation of young disciples, there were quite a few geniuses whose names shook Central Continent City. In the future, they would all have extraordinary accomplishments. After Ji Tianqing understood the situation, he felt that the Zheng family was in the most danger. It was very likely that they were the target of the demon clan. Therefore, he started his investigation from the Zheng family, searching for the demon clan that could have planted the goo worms. For the entire afternoon, Ji Tianqing disguised himself as a guard of the Zheng family and patrolled the mansion several times. He secretly used his spiritual sense to investigate, searching the entire Upright Star Court 3 times. He did not sense the aura of the demon clan, nor did he find anyone with a suspicious identity. Time quickly passed and it was night time. There was no moon tonight. The stars in the sky were sparse and the light was dim. Under the curtain of night, the Upright Star Court was lit with specks of light. It was currently in a peaceful sleep. The 3,000 or so people of the Zheng family still did not know about the demon goo's rampage. They were completely unaware of the impending danger. Ji Tianqing didn't continue his patrol. Instead, he hid on top of a 1,000 feet tall prayer tower, looking down at the entire Upright Star Garden. This prayer tower was the tallest building in Upright Star Court. He could overlook the entire area from the top of the tower. He could see all the important paths in the mansion. With his keen eyesight and lightning spirit eyes, he could clearly see the situation within 1,000 meters. He also had a clear understanding of the patrol teams in the mansion and the hidden sentries hidden in various secret locations. Unknowingly, the night passed. At dawn, Zhengxing Court became even quieter. Everything was calm and tranquil. Ji Tianqing observed from the prayer tower for an entire night. He did not sense anything out of the ordinary. He could not help but feel somewhat puzzled. There's actually nothing out of the ordinary. Could it be that I guessed wrong and the demon clan's target is not the Zheng family? Although he was puzzled, he was not discouraged. He patiently waited. He trusted his own intuition and judgment. Based on his understanding of the demon clan, he firmly believed that it would not be long before the demon clan attacked the Zheng family. Finally, the darkness before dawn was about to pass and light was about to appear on the horizon. Ji Tianqing slightly relaxed his vigilance and prepared to leave the prayer tower. But at this moment, his lightning spirit eyes suddenly caught a glimpse of a black shadow on a bluestone path in the southwest corner of the Upright Star Court. There were no patrolling guards in the southwest corner of the Zheng family. That bluestone path was also a blind spot. It could avoid the detection of the guards and hidden sentries. Ji Tianqing immediately became alert. He realized that there was a problem. He did his best to activate the power of his lightning spirit eyes and looked at the bluestone path from several hundred meters away. Although the black shadow was extremely fast, moving very stealthily like a ghost in the dark night, Ji Tianqing still caught a glimpse of it. However, Ji Tianqing caught sight of that figure and saw it clearly. That black figure was carrying something that looked like a long bag. Something strange. Ji Tianqing shouted in his mind. He hurriedly flew down from the prayer tower and toward the southwest corner of the mansion. After a few breaths, he arrived at the southwest corner of the Upright Star Court. He was only 100 meters away from the black shadow. At this moment, he could clearly see that the black shadow was a tall middle-aged man wearing black night clothes. The black-clothed man was indeed carrying a long bag on his shoulder. From the shape of the bag, it was very likely that there was a person inside. The black-clothed man was not unfamiliar with the layout of the upright star court. He cleverly avoided several hidden sentries and patrolling guards and quickly left the upright star court. After leaving the upright star court, the black-clothed man sped up and rushed toward the south. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing hurriedly released Qian Yu and warned it, "Qian Yu, quickly go and inform Tianzi and Yao Yao that I've found a clue. I'll follow the black-clothed man first and leave marks along the way. You only need to pay attention to the marks I leave behind and you can bring Tianzi and Yao Yao to follow me." After saying this, Ji Tianqing quietly flew into the sky and followed closely behind the black-clothed man. Chapter 778. Ji Tianqing followed closely behind the black-clothed man, leaving the city under the cover of night. That black-clothed man's speed was extremely fast, his movements were nimble, and he was also very vigilant. However, Ji Tianqing's strength was even stronger. Following behind him for 300 meters, he was not detected by him. When the two left Central State City, one in front and one behind, and entered the mountains of the southern suburbs, the sky was already bright. A new day had arrived, a faint red glow appeared on the horizon, the sun was about to rise. The mountains of the southern suburbs were uninhabited, the peaks of each mountain were shrouded in thick clouds. That black-clothed man unscrupulously sped up, passing through layers of clouds, flying into the depths of the mountains. Ji Tianqing followed unhurriedly, leaving behind special markings along the way. Through his observations along the way, he finally saw some clues. That black-clothed man's body shape and appearance did not look like a demon, but rather a human. Moreover, the black-clothed man flew at high speed, not revealing a trace of demonic qi. This discovery filled Ji Tianqing's heart with doubts, silently guessing, this guy is not a demon, but a human? Could it be that someone is colluding with the demon race, acting as a spy for them? No, this is impossible, no human would collude with the demon race, collude with them. Ji Tianqing was full of doubts, continuing to follow the black-clothed man, determined to figure out what was going on. Unknowingly, an hour passed. The black-clothed man flew over 400 li, entering the depths of the mountains, and landed on the peak of 1,000 zhang tall mountain. He carried a gray-brown cloth bag on his shoulder, standing on the peak for a long time, vigilantly looking around. Seeing that there was nothing strange in the surroundings, and no one appeared, he finally felt relieved, rushing towards a pile of rocks halfway up the mountain. He entered the pile of rocks, using a secret technique to open a formation, a dark cave entrance immediately appeared in the pile of rocks. He looked around a few times, then hurriedly entered the cave entrance, rushing into the cave like a gust of wind. And this scene was clearly seen by Ji Tianqing hiding in the shadows. After the black-clothed man entered the cave, he flew to the rocks and observed the entrance of the cave from a close distance. The entrance of the cave was not big, only 2 meters in radius. The cave was dark and gloomy, revealing a gloomy and cold aura. Ji Tianqing probed with his spiritual sense and found traces of devil qi surging in the cave. Looks like this is a demonic cave. I'll be able to figure out what's going on soon. This thought flashed through his mind, and his heart was filled with anticipation. Taking advantage of the fact that the protective formation at the entrance of the cave had yet to close, he hurriedly squeezed into the cave and rushed into the depths of the cave like a gust of wind. As soon as he entered the devil cave, a cold wind blew, and a thick bloody devil qi surrounded him. There was no light in the demonic cave. It was dark and damp, and it was suffused with an unpleasant smell of decay. Ji Tianqing released his spiritual sense and dived into the depths of the devil cave while using his spiritual sense to explore the surrounding situation. He could see that the structure of this devil cave was very simple. It should be a temporary hiding place built by the devil race experts. The winding passage extended into the belly of the mountain, and there weren't many forks or mazes. 15 minutes later, Ji Tianqing entered the depths of the devil cave and finally saw light. In front of him was a spacious cave with a radius of more than 50 meters. There were dozens of moonlight stones inlaid on the walls of the cave, emitting a hazy white light. The cave was filled with cold devil qi, which condensed into a large cloud of black fog, rolling in the air. Ji Tianqing hid at the entrance of the cave and opened his thunder spirit eyes to look into the cave. He immediately saw clearly that there was only one person in the cave. It was the man in black. The man in black returned to the devil cave and thought that he was safe, so he didn't hide his presence anymore. He put the cloth bag on his shoulder on the ground, stretched his arms and stretched his limbs. Then, he took out 2 medicinal pellets and swallowed them. He sat down on the ground to absorb the medicinal efficacy and recover his strength. When he started to cultivate, Ji Tianqing used his spiritual sense to detect that he was at the 2nd level of the Sky Origin stage. A 2nd-level Sky Origin stage expert isn't enough to be the king of a tribe. He's at most an elite devil general. This man is hiding in the devil cave, but there's no devil chi on him. How strange. What's going on? Ji Tianqing hid in the dark and observed silently. He was not in a hurry to show himself. He waited patiently for 30 minutes before the man in black finished his cultivation and recovered his strength. The man in black got up and opened the grayish-brown cloth bag. He took out a young man in a long brocade robe. The young man was in his early 20s. He was dressed luxuriously and had red lips and white teeth. He was obviously a young master from a wealthy family. This person was at the 8th level of the Origin Core stage. He was obviously an elite disciple of the Zheng clan, a young master with a high status. However, young Master Zheng was in a coma and had lost consciousness. The man in black carried young Master Zheng and let out a sinister sneer. Tisk, tsk, tsk. My 8 days of waiting in the Zheng clan were worth it. I've finally succeeded. Second young Master Zheng, your Zheng clan has a lot of experts. Your blood, flesh, and soul are all very strong. I'm really looking forward to your performance when you return to the Zheng clan. After he finished speaking, the man in black threw the young master into the ball of devil fog in the air. Swoosh! The unconscious young master flew into the devil fog and was immediately wrapped in it. He was suspended in the air. The devil fog surged and shrunk rapidly, forming a dark brown devil cocoon that wrapped the young master. The devil cocoon released strands of black fog that were like tentacles that pierced into the young master's body and began to transform and erode his body. The young master's body suddenly twisted and swayed. There were many bumps on his skin as if there were little mice running through his flesh. The man in black kept waving his palm to release black fog and devil chi. He used some kind of secret technique to control the power of the devil cocoon. Unknowingly, 15 minutes had passed. The man in black finished casting the secret technique. The young master's body had also been transformed by the devil cocoon, and some slight changes had occurred. At this moment, the man in black took out a small black gourd from his spatial ring. The small gourd was the purple-ine devil gourd that was unique to the northern desert. It only grew in the devil Dao's holy land that was extremely dark and evil. Its material was very tough and could nurture various devils. This purple-ine devil gourd was favored and loved by the devil clan's powerhouses. It could be used to nourish devils, and it could also be used to store devil chi or various kinds of blood, flesh, and soul. The man in black opened the purple-ine devil gourd and grabbed a tiny purple-ine devil worm from the gourd. The hideous purple-ine devil worm was the devil goo that Ji Tianqing had seen before. However, this devil goo was extremely small, only the size of a fingernail. Chapter 779. Once that tiny demonic goo entered second young Master Zheng's body, second young Master Zheng would be finished. Next, he would definitely lose his sanity and humanity like Tang Shucheng and return to the Zheng family to kill. Ji Tianqing witnessed the man in black casting the spell and the process of planting the demonic goo. He finally understood everything. Since he had figured out how the demons planted the demonic goo, how could he let the same tragedy happen again? When the demonic goo flew toward the demonic cocoon and rushed toward second young Master Zheng excitedly, he finally made his move. He clasped his right index and middle fingers together to form a sword and pointed at the demonic goo. Whoosh! A golden sword ray the length of a chopstick appeared out of thin air. It carried an invincible power and flew 100 feet away in an instant, stabbing the demonic goo. The sharp sword ray instantly pierced the demonic goo and sent it flying more than 10 meters away, nailing it to the hard rock wall with a ding sound. The sword ray pierced a 3-inch deep hole in the dark brown rock wall, splashing out countless stone fragments. The demonic goo with a layer of carapace was also cut in half by the sword ray and stuck in the hole in the rock wall. Shockingly, the demonic goo did not die even after being cut in half. The two halves of its body struggled and twisted with all its might, letting out a soft screech. After a few breaths, the two halves of its body stuck together and were reconnected, becoming whole again. The demonic goo's vitality was so tenacious that Ji Tianqing was shocked and could not believe it. Fortunately, the demonic goo had shrunk by half after its body was reconnected, and its strength had weakened a lot. At this time, the man in black finally realized that something was wrong and turned to look at Ji Tianqing. He glared angrily at Ji Tianqing, his eyes overflowing with a cold light and murderous aura. "How dare you follow me? Bastard!" The man in black instantly guessed the reason and the purpose of Ji Tianqing's visit. He was shocked and angry and let out a cold shout. Ji Tianqing didn't hide anymore. He walked into the cave openly and stared at the man in black with a cold gaze. "Humph. What a vicious method. A demon like you should be hacked into pieces." Ji Tianqing didn't waste any more words with him. He cursed in a deep voice and waved his palms to display a sword art to kill him. Scarlet Dragon Flash. Following Ji Tianqing's low roar, a 10-meter-long flaming sword light shot out like a divine dragon. The dazzling light of the fire illuminated the entire cave, and also clearly reflected the fear on the black-clothed man's face. When the black-clothed man sensed the terrifying might of Scarlet Dragon Flash, he immediately realized that Ji Tianqing was countless times stronger than him. The fighting spirit in his heart had completely disappeared, and he didn't even have the thought of fighting back. He immediately retreated. However, Crimson Dragon Flash's killing speed was too fast, and it was too late for him to dodge. Boom! Following a muffled explosion, Scarlet Dragon Flash fiercely smashed into the black-clothed man, shattering his protective demonic fog and piercing through his chest. The sword radiance exploded with a terrifying force and sent the black-robed man flying backwards. He crashed heavily into a rock wall 100 feet away. Crack! The hard and cold rock layer was actually smashed into a huge crater, and dense cracks appeared all around. The black-clothed man spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground powerlessly. He lay on the ground twitching, and blood kept flowing out from his nose and mouth. He let out a heart-wrenching scream. In between his chest and abdomen, there was a bull-sized bloody hole that went through the front and back of his body. Dark red blood and internal organs also leaked out from the bloody hole, and it looked extremely ferocious. The black-clothed man, who was at Sky Origin Stage 2, couldn't even withstand a single blow from Ji Tianqing, who was at Sky Origin Stage 6. Of course, this was the result of Ji Tianqing being merciful and only using 50% of his strength. If he used 100% of his strength, he could kill the black-clothed man in one strike. However, he still had to continue investigating this matter. If he wanted to find out the truth, he had to capture the black-clothed man alive. He walked towards the black-clothed man, and with a cold look, he asked in a cold voice, "Speak. Who ordered you to plant the demonic parasites? Was it the ancient demonic emperor?" The black-clothed man didn't answer. His body trembled as he struggled, and he lowered his head to the ground. Roar! He let out a beast-like roar, and his body quickly grew in size. His flesh and blood expanded rapidly, and his body immediately changed. The black robe he was wearing was torn apart, and it became a pile of rags that scattered on the ground. In just 2 short breaths, he turned from a tall human man into a ferocious beast that was over 10 meters tall. This was a demonic beast with 4 limbs and a lion's tail, and 2 heads. Its flat and wide mouth was filled with sharp fangs. Its body was covered with dense black scales, and there was a pair of black wings on its back. There were 2 rows of sharp barbs on its spine. Without a doubt, this was its true form. In its human form, it was severely injured by the red dragon flash, and there was a bull-sized bloody hole in its chest. Now that it was back in its true form, there was still a big bloody hole in its chest. It was as big as a washbasin, and the white bones inside could be clearly seen. However, compared to its huge body, this wound was insignificant. It wasn't life-threatening. Roar! The ferocious demonic beast stared coldly at Ji Tianqing, and it let out an angry roar, as if it was warning Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing didn't take it seriously at all, and continued to walk closer to it. He sneered, "I'll give you one last chance, confess honestly. Otherwise, I'll let you have a taste of what it's like to be dead." A hint of fear flashed in the eyes of the ferocious demonic beast, and it immediately made up its mind to run for its life. It roared angrily, waved its sharp claws, and desperately shot out a cold black light. It condensed into 6 black light pillars, and fiercely blasted towards Ji Tianqing. After using the secret technique, it didn't look at the result, and immediately turned to escape towards the exit of the cave. "Humph. You don't know what's good for you." Ji Tianqing snorted disdainfully, and raised his right hand to shoot out a giant golden palm, and smashed the 6 black light pillars into pieces. He was about to intercept and kill the ferocious demonic beast, but suddenly he saw the demonic goo insect hiding in the rock wall, and it wanted to take the opportunity to escape. It's just a demonic goo insect, and it has such intelligence. How incredible! Ji Tianqing sneered, and raised his hand to condense a golden palm, and fiercely grabbed the rock wall. Bang! The rock wall was blasted into pieces, and countless pieces of gravel burst out. The golden palm instantly caught the demonic goo insect, and captured it in its hand, and brought it back in front of Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing immediately took out a dark brown magic treasure box, and put the demonic goo insect into it. He put the treasure box into the space ring, and then turned to look at the ferocious demonic beast that was fleeing. He saw that the ferocious demonic beast was fleeing in panic. It had just escaped to the exit of the cave, and was about to enter the dark tunnel. At this moment, purple lightning lit up in the dark tunnel. Chapter 780. The power of thunder was violent and domineering. The lightning beam was as thick as an arm, and its power was even more terrifying. The ferocious demonic beast was hit head-on by the lightning beam and was immediately seriously injured. A bloody hole as big as a washbasin appeared in its chest. The flesh around the wound was scorched black and smoking, and purplish-red demonic blood kept gushing out. The ferocious demonic beast fell in the cave, struggling with all its might. Its whole body twitched, and it roared in pain. At the same time, a young man and a young woman with extraordinary temperament walked out of the dark passage and came to the cave. These 2 people were Long Yunxiao and Yun Yao. Behind them was a furry ice fox. It was Qian Yu. Ji Tianqing looked at Long Yunxiao and Yun Yao, smiled and greeted them. "You came at the right time." Long Yunxiao nodded and said with a chuckle, "Even if I don't take action, this demon won't be able to escape from your hands." As he spoke, everyone surrounded the ferocious demonic beast and looked at it with sharp eyes. Its injuries were too serious. Especially the lightning beam that Long Yunxiao had shot out. It had hit its chest and almost killed it. It could only lie on the ground, trembling all over. It kept letting out muffled roars, and it had no strength to escape. Yun Yao observed it for a while, and then asked Ji Tianqing, "Tianqing, did you find it in the Zheng family's residence? Did it rob the Zheng family's disciples?" Ji Tianqing nodded and explained, "I waited in the Zheng family's residence for the whole night. I only found it at dawn. It was carrying a person out of the Zheng family's residence. I followed it all the way here and saw with my own eyes how it sowed the demonic insects. Fortunately, I took action in time. Otherwise, that poor young master of the Zheng family would also be infected by the demonic insects." As he spoke, Ji Tianqing pointed at the demonic cocoon behind him. Long Yunxiao and Yun Yao looked up and saw a young man wrapped in the dark brown demonic cocoon. They immediately understood what had happened. At this time, Ji Tianqing took out the seal of mountains and rivers. He used his power to activate the golden seal, and it became as big as a house. This demon is very stubborn, we don't need to waste time interrogating it. Moreover, it had always been in the form of a human and did not reveal any demonic aura. The situation was extremely strange. Let's bring it back and hand it over to Divine Teacher Blackfeather. Perhaps Divine Teacher Blackfeather will be able to figure out what's going on. After saying that, Ji Tianqing activated the power of the Seal of Mountains and Rivers, knocking out the ferocious demonic beast and storing it into the Seal of Mountains and Rivers. There was a space inside the Seal of Mountains and Rivers. It was like a spacious secret chamber. It could be used to store things, and it could also be used as a prison to suppress captives. Once the ferocious demonic beasts were trapped in that space, they would have to endure the suppression of the Seal of Mountains and Rivers. It was impossible for them to escape. Moreover, it had been knocked unconscious by Ji Tianqing. It wouldn't wake up for a few hours, so it couldn't commit suicide. Ji Tianqing put away the Seal of Mountains and Rivers and led Long Yunxiao and Yunyao towards the demonic cocoon. Long Yunxiao observed carefully for a moment and asked with a frown, "Tianqing, how is the young master of the Jing family? Will there be any problems?" Ji Tianqing shook his head and said, "Don't worry. His body was only eroded by the demonic cocoon. He hasn't been demonized, nor has he been implanted with demonic insects. He will recover in 3 to 5 months." Long Yunxiao was relieved. He took out the 9-cloud sword and cut open the demonic cocoon, saving the young master of the Jing family. Then, the three of them left the demonic cave with Qianyu. In order to save time, Long Yunxiao rode the double-headed golden dragon and carried Ji Tianqing, Yunyao, Qianyu, and the young master of the Jing family back to Zhongzhou City as fast as lightning. An hour later, they returned to Zhongzhou City and went to the Jing family's upright star courtyard. Ji Tianqing sent the unconscious second young master of the Jing family back to the Jing family and briefly explained the cause and the process. When the Jing family's patriarch and several elders heard the news, they were shocked and relieved. They thanked Ji Tianqing profusely. Ji Tianqing reminded them to be careful and left the Jing family. At noon, the three of them returned to the monarch mansion and rushed to the Black Feather Palace. Divine Sage Blackfeather was still meditating in the main hall. The hall was silent and the atmosphere was cold and lonely. When Ji Tianqing and Yunyao entered the main hall, only Divine Sage Blackfeather was there. Kuan Wu and Fox Princess had not returned. They were obviously still investigating in the city. Divine Sage Blackfeather sensed the aura of Ji Tianqing and the other two and opened his eyes to look at them. "Greetings, Divine Sage Blackfeather." The three of them walked to Divine Sage Blackfeather and stood in front of him, bowing respectfully. Divine Sage Blackfeather nodded slightly and revealed a gratified expression. He asked, "What clues have you found?" Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and bowed. He reported, "Divine Sage Blackfeather, last night, I was guarding the Jing family's mansion. At dawn, I found a suspicious person." He explained the cause and process of the matter from beginning to end. After that, he took out the Seal of Mountains and Rivers and released the unconscious ominous demonic beast. He threw it on the floor of the main hall. In addition, he took out a treasure box from his interspatial ring and handed the tiny demonic goo to Divine Sage Blackfeather. Divine Sage Blackfeather looked at the ominous demonic beast and the goo. He waved his sleeves and kept the two items into a magic treasure, temporarily sealing them. He stared at Ji Tianqing and revealed a satisfied expression. He said with a gratified tone, "Ji Tianqing, you have found so many valuable clues in such a short time. Your performance is very good. I am very satisfied. Now, tell me what you think." Ji Tianqing, Long Yunxiao, and Yunyao looked at each other and expressed their thoughts. Long Yunxiao revealed a worried expression. He said with a worried tone, "The demonic goo is very vicious and hard to guard against. This demon can even disguise as a human and hide in the Jing family for a few days without being discovered. If Tianqing didn't pay special attention, we wouldn't have been able to catch this demon." Ji Tianqing nodded in agreement. He said with a serious tone, "The demon who planted the demonic goo can disguise as a human and avoid our detection. Their movements are very secretive. If we don't find out how they hide their presence, it will be very difficult for us to find the demon who planted the goo. Yunyao also said with a serious expression, Divine Sage Black Feather, if we continue to guard the various families, not only will it be a waste of time, the success rate will be very low and we will be in a passive position. I think that we should quickly find out how the demon race hides their presence and disguises as humans. Only by finding a way to deal with them can we take the initiative and solve this matter faster and resolve the demon race's conspiracy. Divine Sage Black Feather nodded in agreement after hearing the three's opinions. He said with a deep voice, what you all said is very reasonable. This matter is indeed getting more and more troublesome. I am currently researching how to deal with the demonic goo and I already have some ideas. I will also carefully study that demon just now and find out how it disguises as a human as soon as possible. You all have already been busy for 2 days. Go back to your respective residences and rest. I will immediately send an order to the City Lord's residence and let the City Lord's residence send experts to guard the various families. After I find out the reason, I will send someone to inform you all. Xiaohe has decided to add 2 more chapters today. It will be delivered at 19 p.m. Chapter 781. Ji Tianqing and the other 2 had found the key clue, so they left the rest to Divine Master He Yu. They believed that with Divine Master He Yu's strength, means, and status, he would soon find out the results. The 3 of them bowed and left Black Feather Palace, returning to their respective cave residences to rest. Ji Tianqing returned to Tianqing Palace, which he had been away from for a long time, and immediately summoned the housekeeper to report the news. It had been half a month since he left Tianqing Palace and went to Cloud Spirit Palace with Yunyao. In the past half a month, he was not in Tianqing Palace, but a few people came to find him and left some messages and letters. Ji Tianqing sat in the main hall, listening to the housekeeper's report and making decisions and replies one by one. Most of those who came to find him were the imperial princes of the imperial residence. The letters and messages received by the housekeeper were mostly unimportant news. Only a piece of news from Qingfeng Courtyard caught his attention. Master, this is a letter from Qingfeng Courtyard. According to the guards of the imperial residence, the messenger was a white ape who mentioned young Master Yen. The housekeeper reported the news and handed over a letter with both hands. A letter from the white ape. Is it a letter from Yen, to me? Ji Tianqing reached out his hand and caught the letter in his palm. He opened the envelope, took out the letter inside, and read it carefully. The content of the letter was very short, only 1 sentence, and it was written by Yen. Senior Brother Tianqing, I just returned to Zhongzhou City today and temporarily stayed in Qingfeng Courtyard. I have important news to tell you. A smile flashed in Ji Tianqing's eyes. He raised his eyebrows and asked the housekeeper, Housekeeper, when was this letter sent? The housekeeper quickly replied, in reply to Master, it was sent early this morning. Okay, I'll go to Qingfeng Courtyard now. Ji Tianqing put away the letter and quickly left Tianqing Palace, rushing to the exit of the imperial residence. An hour later, he left the imperial residence and hurried to the breeze yard in the Fish Dragon Alley. When he entered the Cool Breeze Courtyard and rushed to the main hall of the second courtyard, he saw Yen, and the Beast King sitting in the main hall and talking. The old man and the young man were drinking tea and chatting. The Beast King was full of concern as he asked Yen, if the trip back to the Fire Tribe went smoothly, what happened, and so on. When Ji Tianqing entered the hall, the Beast King and Yen immediately stopped talking and turned their heads to look at him. Senior Brother Tianqing, you're back so soon. Yen's face was full of excitement and joy. Apparently, he did not expect Ji Tianqing to come to him so soon. The Beast King smiled and said to Ji Tianqing, Tianqing, you haven't been to Qingfeng Courtyard for a long time. If Yen hadn't come back today, I don't know when you would come to visit this old man. Ji Tianqing walked to the front of the 2 and greeted them. He then smiled and said to the Beast King, Senior Beast King, please don't blame me. This junior has been busy with worldly affairs recently and really can't spare time. As such, this junior is free today and immediately came to see you. The Beast King showed a gratified expression and laughed, "Ha ha ha, although this old man knows you're lying, this old man feels comfortable listening to you. Well, this old man won't disturb you. Since you came to see Yen, you two must have something to talk about." The Beast King exchanged a few words with Ji Tianqing and then got up and left the hall. Only Ji Tianqing and Yen were left in the hall. The hall suddenly quieted down. Ji Tianqing sat down next to Yen, and asked, "Yen, you've only been away for 2 months. Why are you back so soon? Your trip back to the fire tribe this time was smooth, right?" Yen nodded and said, "Well, everything went smoothly." Ji Tianqing asked again, "What about Hui Yen? Has he been escorted back to the fire tribe? How did your imperial father deal with him?" Yen showed a smile and nodded, "When senior brother crippled Hui Yen, imperial uncle and I personally escorted him. Of course, the journey was smooth. After we took Hui Yen back, my imperial father executed Hui Yen according to the rules and laws of the fire tribe and beheaded him in public. However, before my imperial father executed Hui Yen, he used all kinds of secret methods to interrogate a lot of information from him. The news is very shocking and is related to the secrets of the Duanmu family and even the imperial court. I guessed that senior brother Tianqing would be interested, so I came back as soon as possible to tell you about it in person." Ji Tianqing frowned suddenly, and a light flashed in his eyes. He said with some surprise, "It's related to the secrets of the Duanmu family? And it's related to the imperial court? Yen, what information did you interrogate from Hui Yen?" Yen frowned and thought for a while, then said in a serious tone, "Senior brother Tianqing, don't worry, we interrogated him and got a lot of shocking information, let me tell you slowly. Hui Yen used to be the high priest of our fire tribe, he was a person of virtue and prestige, deeply trusted and valued by my imperial father. But later, he married the 7th princess of the Changli tribe, and his temperament changed drastically. He became a selfish, despicable, cruel, and vicious villain. The main reason was that his wife failed to steal the fire divine crystal and was executed by my imperial father, so he hated her. But there was another more important reason, he was poisoned by his wife and had to help his wife do evil." "Poison?" Ji Tianqing frowned and said in a serious tone, "Coincidentally, I've been investigating the demon poison for the past 2 days. Tianzi once mentioned that some ancient tribes in the southern wasteland have mysterious poison techniques that can kill people without leaving a trace and control the life and death of others." Yen quickly nodded and said, "Tianzi is right. There are indeed many ancient tribes in the southern wasteland, and they still have the ancient and mysterious poison techniques. The Changli tribe is one of them." Ji Tianqing asked with a playful smile, "What about your fire tribe? Have you mastered any poison techniques?" Yen quickly shook his head, "The poison techniques are too evil and vicious, our fire tribe views it as a taboo, we will never touch this technique. Furthermore, our fire tribe has strict laws and rules, if any of our tribesmen practice the poison techniques without permission, they will be severely punished." Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a smile, That's good, Yen continue." Yen continued, "Hui Yen learned the mysterious poison techniques from the Changli tribe through his wife, and he secretly practiced and experimented with them. This was also one of the reasons why he was severely punished by my imperial father and was expelled from the fire tribe. After Hui Yen escaped to the central region, he lived for a few years and actually got in touch with the human imperial court. He was taken in by a prince and worked for that prince. With the help of that prince, he took in the 2nd madam of the Duanmu tribe as his adopted daughter. Later, he helped the 2nd madam to enter the Duanmu tribe and slowly raised her status. Finally, she became the 2nd madam of the Duanmu Huang. The reason why Hui Yen did this was because he was instructed by that prince. Because that prince was very ambitious." Chapter 782. Hearing Yen's words, Ji Tianqing's heart was filled with shock. Previously, I thought that Hui Yan's backing was the Duanmu family. I didn't expect that his true master was actually that prince. Yen, who exactly is that prince of the imperial court? This person actually has such powerful courage and means to vainly attempt to control the Duanmu family? Could it be that that prince is the mastermind behind the Duanmu family and Murong family's alliance? Ji Tianqing had long guessed that the Duanmu family and Murong family joining hands to deal with the Yun family was definitely instigated by a powerful force. The only force stronger than the two families was the imperial court. After all, no matter how strong the ancient family's foundation was, it could not be compared to the imperial court. The imperial court was the emperor, and the various families were the subjects. They had to bow their heads and obey orders. Yan nodded and said, "Senior brother Tianqing, your guess is right. That prince is the imperial court's third prince, and also the mastermind behind controlling the Duanmu family and Murong family. This person has great power in the imperial court and usually hides very deeply. Therefore, this news is top secret." Ji Tianqing frowned and pondered for a moment. He asked doubtfully, even if that third prince used Hui Yan's gu poison arts to control many wealthy families and strengthen his own power. But Hui Yan only has the strength of Heaven Origin Realm. He can only plant gu poison in Heaven Origin Realm powerhouses and control some Heaven Origin Realm powerhouses. The Duanmu family and Murong family's family heads are both Soul Refinement Realm powerhouses. Just based on Hui Yan's gu poison arts, how can it threaten Soul Refinement Realm powerhouses? Yan nodded and said in a solemn tone, "Senior brother Tianqing, although the gu poison arts are mysterious and vicious, it's not omnipotent. Moreover, the execution of the gu poison arts is very tedious and complicated. Some special gu poisons also need specific conditions to be sown. Based on Hui Yan's strength and gu poison arts, it's indeed impossible to threaten Soul Refinement Realm powerhouses." However, Hui Yan was obsessed with studying gu poison arts and understood a legend from ancient times. He investigated clues from ancient books and learned that a mysterious gu tribe once existed in the southern Desolation Swamp. That gu tribe was born with the ability to cultivate and control gu poisons. They were the tribe that was best at gu arts in the world. In fact, the gu clan was the birthplace of the world's gu techniques. The gu techniques that were passed down to this day were all learned and evolved from the gu clan. Legend had it that the gu clan possessed a supreme sacred artifact with infinite power, called the origin of all gu. It was a primordial soul-level magic treasure, an existence comparable to a divine artifact. At the same time, the myriad gu origin is also a sacred altar that can gather the power of heaven and earth and release unimaginably powerful gu techniques. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing's expression became serious, and he muttered in a low voice, "Origin of all venomous insects? A primordial soul-level magic treasure was comparable to a divine artifact? The gu clan and the origin of all gu only existed in the legends of the Antiquity era. They no longer exist in this world. I have never even heard of them. What happened to Yan Yan took a deep breath and said in a dignified tone, "Legend has it that when the ancient times were about to end, the southern wasteland marsh was punished by the gods. It was a disaster that destroyed the heavens and the earth. That place used to be a land of abundance. Many powerful and ancient races lived there, and there were even countless kingdoms. However, in the destructive divine punishment, everything was destroyed and turned into scorched ruins. The gu clan also disappeared and became the dust of history. The divine artifact, the origin of all gu, was also missing. There were only some scattered records and descriptions left in the history books. Hui Yan spent more than 20 years of effort to find almost all the information related to gu techniques. Finally, he found a clue about the origin of all gu. The third prince of the imperial court saw the magic and power of gu techniques and began to cultivate gu techniques to control the forces and powerhouses under his command. However, it was impossible for him to control Duanmu and the Murong family with just ordinary gu techniques. Therefore, he seized Hui Yan's efforts of more than 20 years and took the information and clues about the origin of all gu for himself. Ji Tianqing frowned and sneered, "Ha, this third prince is indeed despicable and shameless. Hui Yan worked hard for him, but he treated Hui Yan like this. Could it be that the third prince found the origin of all gu after he got the clue?" Yan nodded and said in a low voice, the third prince was ambitious and wanted to control the two great families. However, his strength had not reached the soul-refining realm, so he could only pin his hopes on the origin of all goo. He had almost exhausted all of his strength to lead countless experts and capable people into the southern wasteland Great Swamp. It is said that they spent 2 years in the southern wilderness swamp and went through many dangers. Finally, they found the origin of all goo. When the third prince walked out of the southern wilderness swamp with the origin of all goo, only 3 of the 300 powerhouses who followed him were still alive. Ji Tianqing was shocked on the spot and couldn't help but gasp. Hiss. Only 3 of the 300 powerhouses survived. The southern wilderness swamp is so dangerous? Yen said with some emotion, yes, the southern wilderness swamp is a forbidden area of death. Legend has it that it is an abandoned land cursed by the gods. However, there are too many ancient secrets and treasures buried there. It is said that there is also a primordial spirit supreme's cave and inheritance. Therefore, even if people know that they will lose their lives in the southern wilderness swamp, they still can't resist the great temptation and enter without hesitation. Ji Tianqing immediately recalled that at the birthday banquet of Miracle Dr. Bailey, the birthday gift he presented to Miracle Dr. Bailey included a few fragments of ancient artifacts from the Seven Slaughter ancient palace. After listening to Yen Er's words, he became more interested in the mysterious southern wilderness swamp. He secretly thought that when he was strong enough in the future, he must go to the southern wilderness swamp to explore. Maybe he could gain something. At this time, Yen Er continued, after the third prince got the origin of all goo, he studied and cultivated for many years and finally mastered the origin of all goo. He used another 5 years to use all kinds of tricks and methods to use the power of the origin of all goo to plant the goo in Duanmu Huang and Murong family's master. The kind of goo that the third prince used is a divine goo that can only be used by primordial spirit magic treasures. It is specially planted in the martial artist's soul. The divine goo is neither poison nor a goo worm, but a kind of invisible power similar to a curse. Even though Duanmu Huang and Murong family's master have the strength of the soul-refining realm, they can't resist the corrosion of the origin of all goo for 5 years. Finally, they were silently infected with the divine goo and controlled by the third prince. Duanmu Huang and Murong family's master are normal on normal days, but every 3 months on the night of the full moon, the divine goo in their soul will act up. If there is no imperial spirit talisman to save them, the divine goo will gradually devour their soul, making them beyond redemption and completely annihilated. In this way, they won't even have the chance to be reincarnated after death. Therefore, the Duanmu family and Murong family can only listen to the third prince and get an imperial spirit talisman every 3 months to prolong their lives. Chapter 783. After listening to Yen Er's narration, Ji Tianqing frowned and his expression was very grave. The information that Yen said was really too important. It was indeed top secret. Who would have thought that the Duanmu and Murong families that seemed to be boundless and had been passed down for thousands of years had actually been secretly controlled by someone? The third prince of the imperial court was not only ambitious and extremely shrewd, but his methods were also very ruthless and decisive. He was definitely an ambitious and ruthless character. Ji Tianqing immediately thought of Long Yun Shao and compared him with the third prince. He immediately came to a conclusion. Although Long Yun Shao also had his shrewdness and wisdom, compared to the third prince, he was much more upright and kind. He was really a modest gentleman. Ji Tianqing pondered for a moment and thought of a problem. He asked Yen Er, the Duanmu and Murong families seem to have formed an alliance more than 10 years ago to deal with the Yun family together. Could it be that the third prince had obtained the origin of all goo and controlled the two families since then? How old is he? Yen Er quickly shook his head and explained, that third prince seems to be more than 30 years old. Indeed, more than 10 years ago, he had secretly colluded with the Duanmu and Murong families. However, at that time, the two families still had a lot of power. They only talked about conditions and cooperation with the third prince and were not controlled by him at all. Because of this, the third prince used Hui Yan's goo poison technique to deliberately subdue many powerful families and strengthen his own power. In order to completely control the Duanmu and Murong families, the third prince spared no expense to find the origin of all Gu. Until 8 years ago, he obtained the origin of all Gu and spent another 5 years to gradually control the two families. So that's how it is. How sinister and despicable. Ji Tianqing came to a realization and completely understood everything. After thinking for a moment, he said with a grave expression, Yan, since this third prince is the mastermind behind the scenes, then I must have offended him by dealing with the Duanmu family. However, if he doesn't appear to attack me, I can't deal with him for the time being. Let's deal with the Duanmu family first. Yan frowned as a worried look appeared on her small face. She quickly explained, Senior brother Tianqing, the reason why I told you this is to remind you to be careful of the third prince. Actually, before you dealt with the Duanmu family, you had already offended the third prince. He had long wanted you dead. Ji Tianqing was stunned for a moment. He asked doubtfully, when did I offend him before dealing with the Duanmu clan? Do you mean when I was still in the Tianjin region? Yan nodded and said in a resentful tone, I heard from Hui Yan that the third prince has not only subdued many noble families in the central province. Moreover, he had even set up arrangements in the 9 regions of the south and controlled many sects and powerful forces. The Tianjian sect in the Tianjin region was controlled by the third prince. The third prince wanted the Tianjian sect to control the Tianjin region so that he could become the invisible Tianjin region lord. However, his plan was destroyed by you, and the position of Tianjin region lord was also taken by you. He. No wonder Gao Yi of the Tianjian sect was so arrogant. So that's why. Ji Tianqing suddenly understood, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. Since the enmity has already been formed, then I can't just sit and wait for death. After dealing with the Duanmu family, I will fight with him. Yan suddenly thought of something, and a bright light flashed in her eyes. She said excitedly, Senior brother Tianqing, I thought of something. It should be an excellent opportunity. 5 days later, it will be the night of the full moon. It will also be the day when the divine venomous worm in Duanmu Huang's body will erupt. On that day, the third prince will send someone to Duanmu Huang as usual to remove the divine venomous worm's soul-devouring power. Hearing this news, Ji Tianqing's heart suddenly beat faster, and his eyes shone brightly. That's great. This is indeed a heaven-sent opportunity. Yan thank you so much. If you hadn't told me this news, who would have thought that a powerful soul-refining cultivator like Duanmu Huang would be secretly controlled by someone and have such a weakness? If I can take advantage of this opportunity to kill Duanmu Huang, the Duanmu family will definitely fall apart. Yan, let's go back to the imperial residence first and make a long-term plan. After saying this, Ji Tianqing hurriedly left the cool breeze courtyard with Yan and rushed back to the imperial residence. Before this, Ji Tianqing had pondered and thought many times about how to completely destroy the Duanmu family. Although he had destroyed the Duanmu family's herb garden and caused 80% of the Duanmu family's businesses to be shut down, and their power and influence plummeted. In the past 2 months, Cloud Spirit Palace and various powerful forces had been working together to suppress the Duanmu family, causing the Duanmu family's situation to become worse and worse. However, these were all superficial methods. They could only hurt the Duanmu family's wealth and power, but they couldn't really destroy the Duanmu family. As long as Duanmu Huang was still alive, the Duanmu family's elders, managers, and powerful soul-refining cultivators were still alive, the Duanmu family could hole up in Greenwood City and struggle at death's door. Therefore, if he wanted to destroy the Duanmu family, he had to kill Duanmu Huang first. As long as Duanmu Huang fell, the monkeys under the tree would naturally disperse, and the Duanmu family would also fall apart. How could he kill Duanmu Huang? Ji Tianqing had thought about this question many times, but in the end, he could only sigh helplessly. Wanting to kill a great powerhouse of the soul refinement realm was truly too difficult. Especially when he had been attacked by Duanmu Huang. Fortunately, Yun Zhongqi had saved him, and he had witnessed Duanmu Huang's powerful strength with his own eyes. He had to admit that killing Duanmu Huang was as difficult as ascending to heaven. However, it was different now. When Ji Tianqing found out about Duanmu Huang's weakness, a flame of hope lit up in his heart. Without a doubt, this was an excellent opportunity. If he missed this opportunity, he didn't know when he would have the chance to kill Duanmu Huang. In order to avoid any unexpected changes if he continued to delay, Ji Tianqing decided to seize this opportunity and take action in 5 days. He brought Yan back to Tianqing Palace and immediately entered a secret room to discuss the plan. Yan how is the third prince's strength? The soul refining talisman is related to Duanmu Huang's life. Will the third prince personally deliver the talisman to the Duanmu family? Yan seriously thought about it and said with a serious expression, according to what Hui Yan knows, the third prince's strength has reached half a step into the soul refining stage. After he successfully controlled Duanmu Huang, in the first year, he would personally deliver the soul refining talisman every 3 months. However, the third prince is very busy and can't personally deliver the talisman every time. Therefore, he left this matter to his trusted aide. In any case, this matter is extremely secretive and only a few people know the truth. In these few years, it has always been the third prince's trusted aide delivering the talisman, and there has never been a mistake. Ji Tianqing nodded and sneered, very good. Then we will kill the person who is delivering the talisman and snatch the talisman.